Hey everyone, this is STARJUMP Grim. Let me know in chat if you can hear me okay. Got the new mic running here. Let me know if I'm 5x5. Nice to see you all tonight. Okay, Art says 5x5, everyone. Artorius Plays is my new moderator for the channel. One of my volunteers that spoke up, so he's going to be moderating. Be on your best behavior. Don't test him too much. All right, everybody, give me just a minute and we'll be right back. All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. It is STARJUMP Grim, and I'm with Execute tonight. Why am I with Execute? Because we're going to be talking about the backlog, and we know Execute has got some opinions. So thanks for joining me tonight, Execute. How you been, buddy?
I cannot see the stream, my friend. I'm trying to see, but it's so I can't see anything. I'm blind.
Let me on the Discord share screen or on the
yeah.
Let me reshare. Discord. Let's see if that I just redid it. Hopefully that comes through.
All right, there we go. Yeah,
there we go. Okay. How have you been?
No, I can see that. It's been a weird week. Weird week. You'll probably find out tomorrow, the people watching. But it's not my story to tell. But yeah, I've just had some stuff in my multiple little things. Yeah, you know how it creeps up in your life like that. It does. But yeah, I spent some time with some fellow creators yesterday. I had a good time yesterday. Mm-hmm. And it's always good to hang out with like-minded folks that cheer up. But yeah, I'm feeling a bit better now. And then obviously I heard yesterday afternoon that the patch was coming. Yeah. So yeah, I was kind of like looking forward to that. And then I told a couple of people and they got to be excited as well. So yeah, obviously it's out now since I've had a sleep. It's always the way for me. Like I go to sleep and wake up to all these little surprises. It is. One thing I will say that is kind of nice is that being part of the new creators group, whatever you want to call it, is nice to get a little bit of a heads up on when those patches are coming, so it's kind of nice. You're not meant to talk about that. Talking about, yeah. Although to be fair, it was the worst kept secret ever. No, actually, sure. But yeah, no. So obviously, 4.3.1 dropped today, everyone. So we're going to get into that. One thing I do want to talk about real quick, obviously the Apollo is released with 4.3.1. We've covered the Apollo pretty extensively. I've covered it with Execute quite a bit. I think the info runners have covered it quite a bit. And courtesy of CIG, we'll be giving away an Apollo triage. So thank you, CIG. That giveaway will be on Sunday. So this coming Sunday. So tonight we're doing part 1 of the concept ship backlog. We're going to talk about half the ships on the backlog list. We're going to talk about those tonight. And then on Sunday, I'll do part 2 of the backlog list, and we'll talk about the other ships. And then that's when the Apollo giveaway will happen. You see the Gleam link that Art has posted into chat. You can go to that link and you can register to get in on the Apollo giveaway. Again, that's for an Apollo triage. Which, wait, it didn't go up in price at all? I think the medevac did. The medevac did, but the triage did. No. Like it's $250 and $275. That's their exact prices. Okay. Oh, I thought wow. Oh, is that the first time that's happened in a while? I think they gathered it was overpriced or something. Which is a little interesting for a ship of that size. By the way, thank you for the follows, everyone. I really appreciate the support. Yeah, so okay, didn't go up in price. That's pretty cool. Did you want to bring that up? I haven't actually looked at that. Yeah, page, so actually we're gonna switch over right now. I do have I'm gonna turn off the follow alert for a minute here, even though it is cool to see the Javelin fly by. We'll switch over to the Apollo page first, everyone. Again, Apollo medevac Apollo triage is out. Again, we won't cover every aspect of these ships because we covered the hell out of them. But they do talk a little bit about the tier 1, 2, and 3 medbed modules. Again, something we've talked a lot about. They have the updated design briefs for medical gameplay. I really encourage you, if you have not been following the game for even just a few months, you really should go look at the medical briefs and design briefs they put for medical out recently. Both of them are really informative. Yeah, go ahead.
I have to correct myself. So the triage, the final price, I just realized what I was reading was
Okay.
war bond prices, has gone to $260, so it went up $10.
$10,
And the
okay.
Apollo Medevac is $290, so that means it went up 15.
Okay.
That's still very tiny. That's
Yep.
that's not even 10%. That's 5%.
Yeah, that's a small bump up. That's actually not bad.
Very,
not
very,
bad.
very, very small. I haven't seen that. No.
The only thing I guess that hurts is for the long time Apollo owners. You didn't, you only got away with a little bit of that early concept savings, but you got a little bit. You got a little bit.
Yeah.
There's some value there.
Yeah.
Real quick here, we'll just.
You also got a much bigger ship though. Like
that's true. I feel like you did get more, like a more substantial ship.
Yeah, I was using this hanger link thing a friend of mine makes,
Yes.
and I was looking at the new ship he'd put in, and I couldn't believe how it is almost twice as wide as a Connie.
It's big. It's big.
It's quite big.
And what's crazy is when you spawn it, it doesn't seem that big, but it's so strange.
Yeah, she's wider than she's tall, type of thing. So she's definitely shorter than the Connie, but definitely wider.
We obviously have the triage and the medevac paints. I know Execute, you're a big fan of the triage all red paint. We also got the Delphi paint, which is pretty slick. I actually like that one.
I thought that was going to be the concierge, but no,
I
they went
did too.
With the
I was
blue one.
really surprised. Lifeline, probably the most straightforward of the paints, like the one that you just sort of expect. Shockwave, you know what? In the previous pictures of the Shockwave, I did not like it. In this particular image, I kind of dig it.
It is starting to grow on me.
It's a little,
I see it now.
Yeah, same way. It's starting to grow on me.
It's kind of got like that surfer rescue vibe.
Yep, 100%. And then obviously the Olympian, which is the concierge paint and a really slick paint. I really hope we get a Perseus livery in this paint job. It's just a nice color combo. Oh, not just because of the color accents here, but I love that they did glossy or sort of a reflective black and then a matte black. I love the contrast there. It's really cool.
I now want Algrid and Paul to get together and do the paints naming convention episode because they're going to have a field day. Because there is an Olympia paint for the Spirit, for example.
Yeah.
And it is black and gold. It's like the Knight Rider one for the MSR. And this one's Olympia, but it's black and blue. So it's like they can't make up their mind. And then there's Solstice skins for RSI ships, but there's also Solstice skins for Aegis ships. So they it's like they just randomly pick a Greek name out of a hat and don't give a shit what it is. Like it's,
yeah. I see Mr. Arrow in chat saying wish Ender was here. And don't worry, Ender is still around. Just talk to him today. He's going to be back. He's getting through some life stuff. Once he gets through that life stuff, you'll start seeing Ender around again. He's taking that time, that very important time to deal with stuff. So don't worry about that. I think we'll start seeing him pop up a lot more now moving forward. But a couple more stats here. Again, the ship has grown to 65 meters long. No surprise there. We've talked about this. Holds 32 SCU of cargo, and they've got the speed there with the medevac. Just a slight bump there on that speed and the SEM speed. Let's go down to the cost. I mean, we already went over the cost there. Again, small bump ups, nothing too crazy. They do have new war bomb purchases. You can get the heavy medical armor set that they put out, which is actually, I think, just a recolor of an existing armor. So nothing too crazy here. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this because, again, we do have a lot of ships to get through on the backlog. But if you're waiting on the Apollo, it's out now. And again, I think for the price, for the modules you're getting and all that good stuff, it's honestly not too crazy of a deal, to be honest with you, with what the ship is bringing to gameplay, especially now, but in the future.
One little thing is if you get the CCUs or the upgrades for Warbond, they are the old price. So you can actually still get that $10 off if you're prepared to pay cash, which is only like $10-15 depending on which one you buy.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy the upgrade from the Apollo triage to the Medivac, just so we can differentiate ourselves from most of the people that are giving away the Medivac.
Yep.
The triage. I'll
Yep.
give away a medevac instead, just to be different.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. That's actually
Yeah.
not a bad. That's not a bad
$15?
idea, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, everyone, hit that Gleam link if you want to get in on that giveaway. Art has posted the link. If you don't see it, just scroll up. Really easy to enter. You don't cost anything. That giveaway is courtesy of CIG. So thank you, CIG, for that. Also, of course, 4.3.1 Virtue's Descent has dropped the new patch that takes us into is it the Science Wing that we go further into?
Yeah. And I don't think it's the last, because when you get to the end of the Science Wing, there's a sign that says surface entry, and there's another sign that says maintenance.
Right.
And I've got a feeling the boss is going to be in maintenance. Yeah. Or if there is, they talked about a boss fight.
Yeah.
So everyone's
boss fight would be really cool.
What's your kind of expectations for that boss?
I'm thinking it's going to be something that is more of like a Vandal. Wait a minute, real quick, full pause, everyone. Truther just let me know. Truther, thank you very much. We have just hit 15,000 subs on YouTube finally. Oh my God, that last 50 took forever. Thank you though to everyone who hit follow on the channel again for especially for a long period of time, how inconsistent we were on the YouTube channel. It's amazing we have this many people. We're obviously I'm a lot more consistent now, but thank you for that support. So I think it's going to be some sort of like mutated Vandal as the boss. However, part of me would love, I'm going to go on some real hopium here for a minute. You mind if I go full hopium? Part of me would love if, sure, it's a Vandal or whatever, but maybe maybe there's something that helps us in the boss fight. Maybe that is a new version of the ATLS or something crazy like that with like Volt weapons attached to it, or just something crazy that takes the fight from boss fight to boss fight plus, you know what I mean?
There's probably some legs there, like something that they can sell at CitizenCon, because just realize this patch will be essentially lining up with CitizenCon.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. My one kind of expectation is, we know there's a lot of Vandal ties in with Dr. DeRode or whatever his name is. I think they're going to take the Vandal AI and essentially kind of put that onto a character, and that's what we're going to kind of get.
Yeah,
we're going to get some kind of different AI.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. They put so much work into this narrative event. I hope they go, I hope the boss fight feels gratifying. You know what I mean? It'd just be a shame for them to take it this far down the road only to sort of drop the ball at the last moment. So I do hope it's something kind of interesting. The fact that we've gotten like these Volt weapons throughout has been cool. Part of me wonders if we're going to get a surprise where it's like, you know how we have the railgun? What if there's like a Volt railgun that we end up getting that is like what is needed to fight this boss or something? Who knows? Something crazy. I think like that would be kind of fun. So one thing I did want to cover. Yeah, go ahead.
Or maybe it's a new Titan suit completely.
Maybe it's a new Titan suit. Yeah. We have heard rumors. You probably have heard more details about it than I have, but I mean, we have heard rumors, of course, that in Squadron 42, there's some sort of boss fight centered around a Titan suit or something like that. I know I've heard that. I don't know how substantiated that is.
I've heard the same.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard something like that. Citizen Spooner, how you doing, buddy? Hope you're doing well. Saw you streaming earlier. Nice work. One thing I did want to cover with this, though, is that they did have the new Elysium patch bundle, the ever famous patch bundles. Our last patch, 4.2 point whatever, was the Blossom bundle, which was actually a really nice looking patch bundle, armor and skin for the Ares. I think this one's going to be rather popular too, simply because it's that concierge armor, but with the pirate skull on it instead of the concierge symbol, black and gold cutty, black and gold Fresnel LMG. So no,
Have you noticed? Have you noticed every patch bundle's got like $2 cheaper and $2 cheaper
Yeah,
and $2?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like and then all of a sudden this one's gonna sell really well because it's the Cutlass,
can I
and
tell
then
you-
and then the next one will be 25 and it won't sell because it's something else.
Okay, so let me just say something about these patch bundles. And by the way, everyone, yes, we're getting to the backlog, and I'm going to talk to a little bit about how the backlog shows are going to work here in just a minute. But I did want to cover this. Obviously, it is patch day. What I did want to talk about is I purchased a bundle. I don't purchase every bundle, but one of the bundle purchases I did was that one during, I forget which event it was, but where you got the pyro amalgamated like armor suit, and it was like the skin for the mole. Now, I don't even own a mole, but I love the pyro suit so much that I got
that was the resource drive.
The resource drive.
Yeah.
So I love that armor so much that after resource drive was over and we got the next one, which was the Blossom patch bundle, I was like, damn it, I really wanted the Gray Cat armor. I just loved the look of it. I don't know. So I went kind of looking into some aftermarket third-party things like Star Hanger or whatever and eBay and stuff like that. Oh my God, the costs for these bundles after the fact when they're no longer available, some people are selling them for $200, $300.
Yep, it's
unreal. Unreal. So I have
so and the main reason for that is they know not a lot of people brought them because they're war bond.
Right.
They're not something like where you can buy and melt, and because of that, people had to invest in them.
Well, Spooner says they need to split the armor and ship skin. Obviously, that would break the bundle.
I've been saying the same thing.
But I mean, obviously, it'd be a good idea. It'd be a good idea.
Yeah, Spooner much what's in front of us because I've been saying exactly the same thing. Yeah. They need to have a discount for buying them all together and then have it split up so you can buy the thing that you actually like. Because let's be honest, if you don't own the ship, then you pretty much don't want the bundle.
Yeah.
And if you just want the armor, that's annoying.
Yeah.
Because you've got to buy a skin for a ship that you may not own.
Yeah. And Quinn asks if they're giftable. Yes, they are giftable after you purchase them, like any Warbond item. And again, that's why they're commanding such high premium prices on the third-party sites after the bundle period is over. So this, the Blossom bundles that were out, I guarantee you, now that those are unavailable, those are skyrocketing in price.
Yeah,
and for people that see them after the fact, if it's worth it to them, it's worth it to them. I won't criticize anyone for irresponsible purchases, but I bought some dumb stuff in my time. I bought horse armor and WoW. So
yeah, I based on what we've seen previously, I do think eventually these skins will be available in game, and they've said that all over time.
Yeah.
I don't think they are exclusive items. I think they're just early access as well. So paying $300, I would not do that. If you missed it, unfortunately, you're just gonna. I'd be patient and wait until it comes out in the live game.
Well, a good example of that is the pirate code that just activated. So when you enter that, you get those crates, those pirate skull crates that were originally part of a bundle. I think when CIG, especially when CIG puts blueprints into the game for us to craft, they're going to need a whole bunch of blueprints because they need to give us something to craft right out the gate. You're going to see stuff like this be craftable, like some of these weapons and armor packs. Some of the paints you're going to see earnable through rep grinds and all that kind of good stuff.
And want progression for all the ships as well. So getting different paint, different weapons, or different components. All that is needed. Yeah, absolutely agree with you.
But anyways, that was the one thing that I noticed about the bundles, and I was just curious. On what your thought was on the resale of those. Obviously, we have a lot of ships on sale right now, all medical themed ships. No big surprises there to go part and parcel with the Apollo. But what do you think about the bundles? Do you think what do you think about this like price fluctuation we're seeing?
I'm just not a fan of bundling, period. It's a really slippery slope. We saw what happened in some other games. The most famous one's probably the Warship game, World of Warships.
Yeah,
they started bundling and they lost a lot of their community because you used to be able to buy just the ship you wanted, and then you had to pay almost double the price, and you got all this shit that you didn't want. And let's be honest, that's pretty much. I know it's only $25, not like $200 like it was in that game. But let's be honest, if you go look at a skin for a Cutlass, $10. The armor set maybe $10-11. So again, you are essentially paying double, and if you don't want everything in that bundle, it is then a rip-off to you, and that's why bundling sucks. So I've been saying since they first started, as I know a few other people, like I think you said Citizen Spoon has been saying as well, that they just need to separate them and make the savings for when you buy it all together. And then I don't care if they even leave the patch bundle the price as it is and they increase the others. Like you pay a premium because it's a limited time thing. So like maybe a normal Cutlass skin is $10. Maybe for this it's 15 as an example, or double. I wouldn't care if it was double, but you being forced to pay full price. Well, again, double wouldn't work because then it'd be like $20. So you just spend the $5 to get this. But you get my point, right?
Sure.
You locking people into buying shit that they don't need, really. Like the very first one, I didn't realize it was kind of like a patch bundle, so I bought it because I really liked that outburst paint for the Corsair, right?
Yeah.
And I like the armor and I like the gun. I happen to like all three of them. But then every other one that's come out after that, I'm like, well, I don't own the ship. I don't like that. And I've just avoided them all. Yeah. So they either hit or miss, and that's the problem. So where if you split them up, you're going to have the people that will buy the whole thing because they like it, like what's happening now. Plus, you'll go, I'm a bit of a kleptomaniac and I've got a thing for ship skins, or I've got ship, you'll buy the individual pieces.
Yeah.
So,
real quick, Execute, I got to check something real quick, tech related on my machine. Would you mind talking briefly just about the ships on sale here? I mean, it's pretty standard stuff, but maybe just talk about that for a second. I'll be right back.
So just the medical ones. Okay. Yeah. Well, long story short, it's got to be a gameplay that you enjoy. You look at them as they are right now, and the medical design doc coming in, they are going to have all their niches, which is really interesting now. Up until this point, like the Cutlass Red dropped off a little bit because everyone was like, well, why would I take that when I can take the Pisces? But now you can see the benefit of the things that it's going to provide in having the 2 beds, because they're essentially gel limited. So they all do have their place now. And I find that really interesting. Obviously, the smaller they are, like the Ursa or the Pisces, they can also fit inside another vehicle, adding those features to a ship or a vehicle that you don't have those features on. But we are now getting to that top end of town with the Apollo, and you start to look at, say, something like the Galaxy, and you can start to see how that'll come around because you can have both a Pisces and an Ursa inside it. So you're getting that full functionality suite, and then eventually you've got the Endeavor as well. So they've all got their place. It's just fundamentally for medical, you've got to enjoy that gameplay.
Yeah. Hey, Zero, thank you for eating up a little airtime there. I appreciate it. Problem is now solved. Okay, everyone. So 4.3.1, there are patch bundles, extended extended Onyx ASD facilities. Go check that out. It is some really nice Star Citizen content. And then the RSI Apollo, if you're interested in it, check it out. 2 variants out. You can get in on that giveaway. You'll see the Gleam link in chat. Courtesy of CIG. Thank you. All right, what are we talking about tonight? I'm going to zoom out here. We are talking about the backlog, and we're going to sort of separate it out into 2 parts. So part 1, we're going to talk about, which is this first kind of horizontal list of ships up here. This first part 1 of backlog is going to be ships that either are near-term ships, like near-term concepts. We expect that they are either in development, going to be going into development, or perhaps already have had a lot of work done to them, okay? And then on part 2, which will most likely be Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 21st, which is when our Apollo giveaway will end. AMD 300 says, Grim, you're my hero. I appreciate that. I am a hero to many. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, AMD.
You're not going to be able to meet him now. You know that, right?
No, I know. Your hero's always disappointed you. I'm very gassy tonight. I would disappoint you, AMD. But part two of the backlog, though, will focus on concept ships that are much further out, right? So concept ships that are most definitely going to require complete reconcepts from the ground up, and are probably either ships that we still got a few years to wait for, or are more likely even post 1.0 ships. So keep that in mind, okay? And because of that, I wanted to split them up into two parts because there'd be no way to get through all of them. Okay. So if you're interested in what ships we're going to be covering tonight, I'm going to go ahead and read off the list of ships we're going to cover tonight. We're going to cover the Origin G12, the Anvil Legionnaire, the RSI Zeus MR, the MISC Hull B, the Anvil Paladin, the Gatak Railen, the Perseus, Galaxy, Ironclad, Odyssey, Pioneer, Kraken, and Javelin. So a lot of those ships I've listed off, I'm sure many of you have heard about them being in production or in pre-production or whatever. What we're going to do tonight is we're just going to go down the line. We're going to talk very not too in depth about them. We might give each ship anywhere from a couple minutes to up to 10 minutes or whatever to talk about. And we'll say any thoughts that maybe are important about them or anything that's important to know about their current status or maybe what we've heard or what we know. And if we think the ship, has that value moving forward or not, or if it's still a ship that's in kind of a weird place. But regardless, we'll talk about that. I'm sure when we get to the part 2 episode on Sunday, some of those ships, there's going to be a little bit more interesting discussion going on just because they're so filled with question marks. Some of those ships the Orion and Crucible and stuff just have a lot of question marks surrounding them. But we're going to jump right into it. So we can tangent. I do know someone asked if the question bot was running tonight. It's not running tonight. It'll be running for part 2, though. I did tell Pickles I was going to test it. I'll be totally honest with you. I was juggling so much today that I did not get it set up. But I got all the stuff to set it up, so I'll have that running on Sunday. So we'll be able to finally test the chat bot. I also, this is the first night that Art is moderating for me, so I wanted to let him kind of make sure links and everything were working properly for him before throwing that on his plate as well. So
throwing some curveballs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay.
We've hidden a bad guy in the crowd. You've got to find out who it is.
All right, we're going to start with our very first ship on the backlog list, and that is the Origin G12. This is a set of 3 vehicles that at one point were on the in production list, and we're making their way through. I think John Crew addressed this recently, though, that they're one of those vehicles that will go on the like the to-do list and then come off the to-do list. Right. So what do we know about this one, Execute? Is it still in progress?
I think for me, it's just a priority thing. So this is I've got a bit of downtime. I'm going to work on the G12 for a little bit. The one I'm thinking of is there was that other bike. What bike was that?
Ranger.
No, it wasn't the Ranger. No, it's been completed, but it took him like 4 years to do it because Chris Smith would only do it when he had downtime. And I'm trying to remember which one it was. It wasn't the Pulse. It was another one. God, I'm having an absolute brain fart. Someone will say it and I'll remember what it was. But basically he just did it on and off. Yeah. And essentially this is the same type.
I know we've had the Pulse, the Nox, the X1.
X1, that's X1, the one. Okay. The X1. Yeah. So the X1 he did off and on for I think it was close to 4 years because it's a priority thing, right? So let's look at this objectively. Take yourself out of it and just look at it. What does the game get for getting this? You already have enclosed cab vehicles. You already have medium vehicles that have turrets. So this essentially falls somewhere between a Cyclone and an Ursa. So you don't really gain a lot. Yeah. And so because you've got a racing vehicle in the Cyclone and a few of the others. You've got a turreted vehicle. The only thing that you really get is an AA variant, but oh wait, the Cyclone's already got one of those as well. So you actually aren't gaining anything, and that's why it's taking so long, because it's essentially not quite a double up, but very close to a double up, and so it just drops off that priority order. And being small, they're really good for a single person to work on over time. So it's something to keep them busy in between bigger tasks.
Yeah, and it was just recently on the latest Ship Showdown Q&A, John and Ben kind of made the comment. It was a little bit of an offhanded comment, but they kind of made that comment like, yeah, we haven't done anything new with Origin in a while. Obviously, the big to-do Origin thing on the to-do list is the 600i rework. I don't know if this is necessarily tied with them working on Origin stuff, but it's just they haven't been focusing on Origin stuff since the 400i. So it's been a little while.
Origin, Yeah, I think Origin will come around again when they
It
do
will.
the commercial side of Origin, so
Yep.
the shop ships or something like that. I just want to ask you real briefly:
Yep.
do you do things like this in your work, or the people that you work with? Because I know you manage a lot of people. Do you have small tasks that they can move off and do on their own?
Yeah.
Is that a thing you see in your work?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's sort of two ways to onboard artists, especially for like, film VFX, and that is to either assist a senior artist in the task they're doing by doing just some of the grunt work stuff for them, and or giving them a small project that they can kind of oversee and take on themselves. And I think that's the model CIG sort of seems to be running with to some success. So yeah, we do that as well.
Would have been, it kind of could have been interesting to see Chris Smith finish one and then have maybe 2 junior artists do the variants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Might
Especially if
be a
like
way
the
to do
more
it.
complicated one was the one done by the senior, and then the junior kind of can take it from there. Absolutely. That happens in my field as well, visual effects for film and stuff. So there you go, G12. I don't think you're going to see these anytime soon, everyone. I think CIG does have their hands full, but it's not forgotten if you have been waiting patiently for the G12. And this is sort of what this show is aiming to do, is sort of revisit some of these backlog ships just to kind of, CIG doesn't always talk about them, but just sort of reassure you on, they're not forgotten. They're definitely going to get to these. So
in summary, kind of like the X1, it's just going to be done as they've got time. Okay.
Question from Grimwraith, by the way, grabbed by Art, says, is the Heartseeker Mark II going to be added in ships? There was some weird thing about that. The Heartseeker Mark II is not actually a SKU anymore. It's a paint. So that's why it's not shown up in Fleet Viewer as a SKU, because that's how we do the ships, is by SKU, because they tie into Hanger Link. I can't say anything on here. I had a very, very interesting Fleet Viewer conversation today, but that's all I can say.
Ooh, I'm excited for the show now.
I know.
Well,
okay. So next ship here is and actually let me pull this back up. Sorry, I meant to do this when we were, stand by everybody. Let me get everything up here. I am not as organized as I thought.
Did you hear? You got to say I'm doing it live now, because
yes, I'm doing it live now.
He actually, I don't know if he was copying me specifically when Jared said that the other thing is, we're doing it live. I just went, what? Because I've never heard anyone say that, but maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm being a bit presumptuous. But,
I meant to pull up the transmission pages while we were talking about the ships on the list as well. Again, nothing here that we didn't discuss. The 3 variants of the G12 series, very much sort of mirroring sort of the Tumbrel Cyclone line, although the Tumbrel Cyclone line is pretty deep. Not that they couldn't go deeper with this, but I feel like it would be pretty redundant anytime soon. But I could see further on as we get closer to 1.0, they could easily fill these out.
So a very common thing that we see now with Origin is they essentially physically grow in size, and they get a lot of performance, but they get that at the cost of going up a size, right? So, for example, you get the 400i that is the size of a large, but it's essentially got the features of a medium. So you kind of, it's got a negative and a positive there. So this essentially has the features of a Cyclone, but it fits in the size of an Ursa.
Right.
And so there's a drawback, but a plus. So it's,
Let's move to the next ship, though. Again, we have a lot of ships to cover here. The Anvil Legionnaire. Then this is another one that was in our ship silhouettes for a period of time there. It was going into production. We've heard John Crew refer to it going into production. With this one, we know the reason it's not in production right now, or why it's been paused. Execute, can you talk a little bit about why this ship is not in production?
Well, I think it's 2 reasons in a weird way. I think it's 2 gameplays. I think it's the docking. They've talked about how they're going to do ship-to-ship docking, but also the hacking gameplay. We know that we've seen footage of hacking being kind of worked on, like the different ports and stuff like that. So I'd almost argue that that's the one that's probably more further along at this stage. And we haven't really seen much on ship-to-ship docking. They did talk about it a bit recently in the SCL. So I can see it being in the next year or so, maybe, but like until we kind of see some progress on that. I think that my question would be test bed. Do you know what I mean? Because like, do you wait for one to come online and just do the boarding part, or do you put it out when hacking's there? Like you would know as well as I, they tend to have one ship that does one gameplay with in the meantime. You get what I mean?
I mean, it's a good question. And it leads me to the thought, you know, we see here in this frame, you know, the sort of the type here says lock on the Legionnaire's 2-in-1 docking collar connects to all UE standard apertures. I mean, I think it's all but, you know, it's like the worst kept secret in the world that from what I've heard them say, and maybe what you've heard them say, is that the ship to ship docking is going to be a handshake system, but also there's a lot of hints around hacking gameplay also playing into ship to ship docking. And that there'll sort of be two ways to dock to a ship. One is lawful, where you're sort of getting that permission with the other ship. You're both handshaking, boom, the docking occurs. The next version is by hacking the ship somehow, and then a force docking occurring.
Take your handshake analogy. It's like forcing someone to shake your hand via hacking. So you walk up, grab their hand, and put it in yours, and go, "Yeah, we're docking now," like that,
grabbing you by the back of the arm. So again, Anvil Legionnaire. Anytime you look at these ships, if any of you have those ships you pledged for, concept ships, and you notice they just have a lot of dependencies that are not in game yet, or features, like I say, dependencies. Probably more likely the further that ship is out in terms of like when they're going to tackle it. That is why, and we'll get to this ship in a little bit, that's why I bring up the Pioneer so much in my streams. Well, I like the ship, but more importantly, the Pioneer is an interesting talking point because it has so many features that have to come into the game for it to come in the game. And so it's an interesting metric.
Just to expand on what you're saying there, also adjacent ones. So obviously looking at a ship like this, a military boarding craft, it's obviously got combat that is fundamentally most of that's in the game right now. So you can see how it's a boon to add this because it adds to what we already have. You know, and I'd say hacking leads into piracy and combat as well. So they both are adjacent. So adding that, you already get things added to what you have.
So yeah, the Anvil Legionnaire. I mean, again, I think this is a ship that this is a funny one because for some reason, people are really excited for this ship. I think it's the ship-to-ship docking. It's that mechanic. So it's sort of like, I think people are excited for the ship, but what I think people are excited for is the boarding ships via docking and taking them. So again, it's the gameplay feature that people are excited for, right? So
I cannot think that we wouldn't be getting another boarding ship.
We have to.
Like if you've got a military one straight off the bat, I think like a pirate one. I don't know. You know, Drake has the Herald, but like, you know, maybe it's not Drake. I don't know. But again, like something that's more piratey focused. And again, like I said, knowing that this is kind of sat there for a little bit and it's got the two gameplays, I could totally see them. But if hacking and boarding are so intricately linked, which makes a lot of sense from not just what you said, but what I know. They could be very similar and also cheap. Surprisingly, this was $125. So it's probably going to work out to be around $150, which is pretty cheap for a military craft because it is a bit niche because you're only really using it for that. But again, you add in a pirate variant, you know, we might be seeing around $100 for something like that, which would be interesting.
I would agree with that. By the way, I see Guardian in chat. Guardian, hope you're doing well. Citizen Ninja. Real quick, everyone, thank you for the follows. Thank you for the subscribes. Really appreciate it. I have turned the Javelin flyover for the follow alert off just because it was going off, but I do really appreciate it. Thanks for that support. We're going to move to the next ship now on the list, and that is the Zeus MK II MR, the Marky Mark. This is
has that become a thing again? I'm done. Sorry.
It is. It is. It is. This is the bounty hunting variant of the Zeus. Now, this is one
unlike the ships we've covered so far, this ship is already got 2 variants in the game. I would surmise, and I am speculating here, this isn't like information I have. I don't know if Execute has any information, but I would speculate heavily that a lot of work has already been done on the MR. And they got it.
Agree.
They just got it to a point, like a 95% point, and then a pen is put into it. Because again, it makes sense to cover a lot of this ground while they're working on the other 2. It's even possible that 4th variant that we've heard about, the ST variant that John Crew just talked about, that's got some other gameplay mechanic involved that we don't have, probably was worked on as well. I would have to think.
It was put onto the website, so to speak. I would assume it's done as well. It's just smoother in workflow to get them done at that time, and then they just come back and sell them later. And I think there was a change of not selling it when the gameplay wasn't ready, so I would totally agree with that. I think the thing that's probably holding up bounty hunting the most is scanning, and we know that that is on the roadmap to be finished by the end of the year. Excuse me. Indigestion. They talked about bounty hunting for the last couple of years now. I think it was around Invictus, not this year, but last. You correct me if I was wrong. They showed off like you'll be returning bounties that you collect in a essentially like a gurney Han Solo style pod to the capital ship docking stations is also where they're returned. Same place. It's like a security area on each of those stations that have those. So we've seen that kind of gameplay was there. You know, you essentially add close to 2 years to that. You've got to assume that that's come a long way, and basically that it's pretty much ready to go. It's just waiting on certain contingencies, and I think the real big one is scanning. I've mentioned scanning many times, and it's
both FPS and ship-based, like further ship-based scanning. I mean, I think we can't forget either that it wasn't too awful long ago that we saw additional work that had been done to the Anvil Hawk, another bounty hunting ship with the pods that go in the back and stuff. And bounty hunting is just one of those things. It's like every year I think this is going to be the bounty hunting year. This is going to be it, and then it doesn't come. You know, and again, it relies on a few things. It relies on the scanning, like Execute's talking about. It also relies on non-lethal or less than lethal takedowns, which we know we need, and possibly restraint systems. It'll then rely on those like pods that you put people in. We're going to need destinations to take those pods and load them, although because it would be a little weird if we're just tossing them on the freight elevator. Freight elevators and sending them down.
Some of those you can kind of get away with like, for example, restraining someone can literally just be an animation.
True.
So some of it you can get away with really cheaply. The main one I think is the place to take the pods to, but we already saw that was working. But having the ability to find these targets, so essentially bounty hunting is almost like the inverse of piracy. So they are piracy and this are kind of sitting in a very similar place. And as I said, you can literally see that it requires scanning to come along, and that whole core gameplay, like and that whole someone has something of value, bad guy wants it, good guy's going to try and stop him. And up until this point, pirates have kind of been almost like hand cranking, like an old, you know, the old cars, how you used to start them. They've been forcing it to work with a hand crank. And then it's going to, once scanning comes in, it's almost like we're going into a like mobile combustion, and it's actually going to start working properly. And we'll have this core gameplay that everything else is built around. And that's where I really think we're going to start to see the start of a game really kicking off. I know, and when I say game, I say the multiplayer part. Let's be honest, Star Citizen's the multiplayer part. Up until this point, we've kind of been having a little bit of hand-me-downs from Squadron. So even ASD, I would consider to be very Squadron based in the way it is. So I think
some assets were probably borrowed for sure.
So for it to start to stand apart, it really does need scanning, and that it's probably I've been talking about this for close to a decade now. We need scanning, I'm really looking forward to it.
Question from AMD 300 says, will they redesign the Connie to match the new design for the RSI? You can probably guarantee that some of the Apollo and Meteor and Zeus design aesthetics are going to come into the Connie rework for sure. And the Aurora rework. So
we talked about that. It's about
Yep.
halfway between the old Connies or where we'd expect the Connies to move up to.
yeah,
And you can kind of see that progression because it's got struts, but then it's got clear areas, but then it's got Zeus aesthetics on the inside and stuff like that.
yeah,
That Zeus MR, by the way, if you want
Yep.
to kind of see what that looks like right now, go try the Cutlass Blue in game. It's probably the closest
There you go.
variant
Yep.
we have to that ship.
Yeah. Next ship we're going to talk about, and this is an interesting one because this one we just heard the first little bit about, and probably forever since it was concepted, from John Crew on the Ship Showdown Q&A, and that is the Hull B. The Hull B, which is the ship that sits right in between the Hull A and the Hull C, obviously, if that was that wasn't obvious, but part of a larger line of ships. The Hull D and Hull E, I'm going to talk more about in the part 2 segment of the backlog, which will be on Sunday. Those are much bigger ships, and I think there are a lot of questions surrounding those two ships in terms of the gameplay available for the amounts of cargo they carry. But so we're going to put that aside for a bit, and we're going to talk about the Hull B now. Now, looking for the Hull B transmission page, you have to go all the way back to April 25th, 2015, and it's an article on the Hull series as a whole, excuse me, and they talk a little bit about the Hull B here. So
that little image there
Yeah.
is actually the concept. If you open that, it will show you the old concept.
Yeah.
The
other one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
And so really the problem here is that it can't land when it's fully. So they talked about making it so the bottom spindle would go away,
Yeah.
and then
Starlet.
you lose all the cargo there.
Yeah. And it's supposed to land with cargo on it. That's the key thing, right? It's supposed to be able to land fully laden with cargo. So we've talked, me and you specifically have talked about what the redesign of this ship would be. We finally heard John Crew address this, by the way. Once again, everyone, thank you for the follows. I do appreciate it. We heard John Crew address this just recently with the Ship Showdown Q&A, where he talked about the Hull B has been reconcepted. It sounded like it had its reconcepting pass and is in pre-production. To remind everyone what pre-production means, because we have a couple of other ships in pre-production phase right now. Pre-production is, in my opinion, unless I'm totally reading it wrong, it does have a little bit of white box work going on, but it's a little bit more of a skeleton crew, probably mixed with some concept artists, where it's not the full ship production team. It's maybe like one person off the ship production team and one person off the concept team, and it's that bridge moment between the concept work and the full ship production work. That's how I see pre-production. XQ, would you agree on that?
Yeah, basic layout, making sure things are going to work at least roughly, making sure there's no real drastic changes needed.
And
look, I think you and I kind of landed on like somewhere between the Hull A and the Hull B. So with the struts essentially doubling the spindle, but then chopping the top and bottom off, and that would basically kind of make it work. If it comes out different from like that, I wouldn't be surprised either. But that seems to be the most natural progression because it literally does put it halfway between the A and the B, the A and the C. 2 spindles on the C, but there's only 1 spindle on the A, but they're only on the side on the A. So if you essentially have 2 spindles and they're only on the sides.
By the way, Mufasa245 just rated the channel with 8 viewers. Mufasa, thank you very much for that raid. I appreciate it. Salute to you. I give you the double salute. Thank you for that. I appreciate you sending your community over here to hang out with us as we roll through Ships of the Backlog Part 1. But yeah, thank you for that raid. I do appreciate it. One other note, everyone, is that, and this varies from ship to ship on the backlog, one of the reasons I didn't create stat sheets for all the ships, like, oh, it carries this much SEU and this much crew and stuff, is I kind of knew it would be a little bit of a waste of time. All these ships are concept ships, and what I've been noticing more and more with ships that are leaving concept, going into full production and then flight ready, is we've started to see some pretty big changes. Some of those changes have been in cargo capacity. Some of them have been in crew count. Some of them have been in size and scale, definitely with armament. The Apollo is a great example of this, by the way. It grew pretty massively, almost 33% growth in size, but it also received the dual size 4 chin guns, like stuff that was not in the original concept. So that's the only reason I'm not really getting into any nitty gritty on the stats here. Like, for example, with the hull B, I can almost guarantee you whatever the current SCU list or listed SCU is, it's going to be different than that, probably.
Yeah, I'm the same. I try to avoid stats that I know that are most likely going to change.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't often go into weapon details because you can just put different guns on it. You know,
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
You know, you can change the components, stuff like that.
It's not that it's not important, but I've said this a lot. I know the info runners talk about this, but if now CIG is not really doing concept ships anymore, but when they were doing concept ships, I never purchased or pledged for a ship based off any specific stat, like the size guns it has or the size components or any of that. You really were only safe in pledging for that concept based off the role of the ship, because that was the only thing CIG really, I think, planned on sticking to for sure.
Well, let's give a real simple example. The Redeemer, it had size 5 guns. It's got size 4 guns.
Right.
You know, none of us could have predicted that was going to happen. But things have to change to rebalance things. So, and it will happen with other ships as well. So it's not just the guns, it's also hard points. Look at the component changes. The Redeemer went from what was it, 2 size 3s to 6 size 2s. You know, so there's and I'm just picking the Redeemer as a good example, but there are other ships these have happened to as well.
Yeah.
So,
I got a whole B question here from Vasily. Thank you, Art. Appreciate you hitting those questions and for shouting out Mufasa. Question for Vasily. Question: do you think the hull B will have cargo grid plates like the hull A? Do we anticipate removal or reduction of bottom cargo? I think the bottom cargo is definitely gone. I think it'll be side and possibly top. Maybe it'll be a little bit more of a tri thing, or it'll be just left and right. But yeah, I'm expecting it's going to be really an upscaled hull A. I think it's going to have those cargo grid crates just like we saw. And in some ways, the hull A is still one of the most convenient cargo ships, right up there with the Raft.
I think because of the way the Newtonian physics work in this game, if the bottom goes, the top has to go, just because of balance. And that's why I keep coming back to the, you know, it's essentially a hull A, but with 2 spindles. Yeah. Because it's the only thing that I can think that logically works. We know that they've made it on the A. We know it works. Like, there's no, you know, why stuff with what, you know, so just essentially double the length. And it makes it a little longer. But you can also see, if you look in the image there is kind of a bit of a gap there at the back of the spindle. So you could essentially just make it a little bit longer and take the one that's on the top and bottom and just put them on the sides. It would solve everything. So yeah, but yeah, it's essentially just going to be a hull A and a hull C. Yeah, all the grav plates and all stuff like that. It's not going to be any different. Yeah,
real quick question. I want to interject. We have a question from who asked it. Cosmic Turtle says, Hangar Link lists the Apollo at 64.5 meters, but Urkel is listed at 73 meters. Why is there such a difference between length? Real quick on that, it's because Urkel, and I love Urkel, he's such an awesome dude, he's just wrong. The ship here, I'll scroll down, is 65 meters long. The 73 meter length, and I think SC Leaks or Pipeline or whatever they're called now had it wrong too when they first came out. They were measuring the collision box, which is an entity. It's actually 65 meters. We'll probably adjust that in Fleet Viewer. We measured it in Blender at 64.5. CIG probably just rounded up, but yeah.
I was about to say that's one of the first things I asked him during the week, and he literally came back with 64.4. Yeah. So he's measuring the right things.
Yeah, so, just so you know, when we measure a ship for Fleet Viewer, we're literally taking the game asset, putting it into Blender, which is to scale, putting it into Blender and literally measuring it. That's how we come up with the scale. And sometimes we have noticed that CIG's like ship spec transmission sheet will sometimes be rounded up or down from a 0.5 listing. So yeah, anyway. So anyway,
technically they should have rounded down, if I think about it, because it's 64. It's 0.4. Yeah, Australia's got this really weird thing with rounding. Like, if it's below 5, they round down, and if it's above 5, they round up. Yeah. So if it'd been 64.7, they would have rounded up to the
Real
rule.
quick here, Artemis TGM, I did get your question. I know it's up in the scroll a bit. I did grab that one. I'm going to circle around to that one when we get to the larger ships here in a little bit later. Okay, I haven't forgotten you. Real quick question from Loic OS. Hopefully I said that right. Question says, the hull B has no mention of a tractor beam. Is there a possibility they will add one? It seems to be an obvious addition. I would think so, right? For its size, probably.
I'm going to say this. I don't think it's really based on its size because the hull A doesn't have one, right? I think I would add one because theoretically, correct me if I'm wrong, you could also check this on the concept page, but it's designed for 2 people. What is that second person doing? Right? Is that second person really just to you unload one side, they unload the other? Yeah, I would hope that it's either got room inside to store the like Mac lifts or something to that nature. Maybe they're really generous and put an Atlas somewhere in it, or something like that. But you'd want it to be a step up from the hull A, and I think a tractor beam would be. So that's a tough one because you technically have to. Again, if we're going by what we think it's going to be, and they're on the side like the hull A, you'd need 2 tractor beams. You'd need one for the left and one for the right.
It's kind of a weird mounting position for the tractor beam because it would have to. The panels are perpendicular to it. It's a lot different than how the hull C is set up. And if you've seen some of those, when you get to the hull C, the hull D, and the hull E, CIG is going to set those tractor beams up specifically. If you remember that space station building presentation they showed us at ZenCon, remember how those ships were literally taking cargo off their grids and putting it on those cargo magazines that were, these plates on the side of stations. That's sort of what that is made for. This is a different type of cargo ship. It has its hulls. It's part of the hull series, but it really is playing in a different world than those larger ones.
I'm going to lean into it. It probably does need the 2 tractor beams because at 384 SCU, we have the raft at 190. That's twice the cargo of that, and that's got a tractor beam. So I have to assume they're going to do the same thing with this. I would think so, but it'll be interesting to see how they do that. I'm real curious. All right, for the sake of time, everybody, we're going to keep moving. Next one here is, I know, a popular one. I know Tristpone asked me just the other day, why is the Anvil Paladin in Sergeant Fleet Viewer so damn green? It was this green because when I was originally building it, I was building it on a few leaked images, and it looked super green in those leaked images. And then once the concept was fully revealed, it wasn't quite as green. So anyway, the Anvil Paladin, this one we probably don't need to talk super long about because we know this one is really far along in development, right? We even have an image that was released not too long ago, popping that up in the window now. This image was released of it. We saw in the SitCon goodies pack for this year that one of the flight suits armor sets that you get is very essentially, we're all speculating themed.
It's very Paladin themed, which is kind of cool. I hope they do that more, to be quite honest with you. I'd love to get more armors and flight suits tied to ships when they release. But we know
garbage cow flight suit,
just a garbage bag over the shoulder.
Hessian bag.
Yes,
it's breezy and carefree.
By the way, everyone, thanks for turning out tonight and hanging out with us. We got 63 over on Twitch and 137 on YouTube. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. But yes, you see here in this image, obviously, this is LOD 0 level. And actually, you know what? No, I would correct myself and probably say this is close to final art. This is probably final art level for the Paladin here because it's got distressing and other stuff going on here. A lot of decal work done. So I think this is very far along. I think Paladin for CitizenCon. That combined with the CitizenCon goodies thing, very strong evidence that this ship is coming in October.
I will say I'll be more careful here, and I'll just say by the end of the year. I'm not going to sit here and well, you and I do this in the background, right? We try and predict when these things are going to come out, but really at the end of the day, the window's the safer bet. But yeah, I'd agree. I'd like to see it at CitizenCon, but if it's not there, it's going to be out by the end of the year.
As much as we would like CIG to privately DM us and say this ship is coming out on this month, it doesn't happen. But like anyone, you can take clues that CIG drops, little tidbits here and there, and sometimes get a bead on maybe when they're targeting a ship to come out based off other information. For example, when Execute and Algrid, by the way, we hope to have Algrid on the show soon, but when they talk to John Crew and Ben Curtis, they learned that most ships or all ships have roughly an 18-month window, maybe more depending on the ship, but at least 18 months. It gives you a little bit of a measuring stick. Now, it's not to say that they haven't finished a ship in 8 months, you know, in the rare occasion, but what that is a good law of sort of rule of average there that you can go by. But you know, we're going to get it wrong sometimes. I can't tell you how many times I thought a certain ship was going to come out and it just never did. Yeah. So it is the way it is.
Let's look at the Ironclad real quick. You know, that was meant to be 18 months. We're expecting that at this year's Invictus.
Yep.
But things paused it along the way. And so essentially it looks like it's coming next Invictus. You know, things happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So Anvil Paladin, I think it's coming really soon. If this is a ship you were waiting on, I do not think you're going to be waiting much longer. It's a big brawler. I think this thing comes in at what, 50 some odd meters, right?
54.
54 meters. It's a pretty big ship.
Thing that this,
I do have this hanger link thing here.
54 meters. Look, I've already upgraded mine, completed my CCU chain. Or 53, sorry.
53 meters.
But it's bigger than the other two Valkyrie variants, but it technically I'm really looking forward to it.
Since this one is so close though, let's go one step deeper in the conversation about this one.
Okay.
Who should buy this ship, or you know, whether it's in game or real money, but who is this ship for?
So it's a gunship. If you look at the other kind of gunships we have right now, I'd probably say you got the Redeemer, the Corsair, and the Connie listed as gunships. This is the most attack focused of those. So the Redeemer goes back to its old role, and because it was like what this is intended to be for a time, it goes back to be more like a military insertion vehicle or escort. Long-range escort. This becomes armored. It's probably going to be more slow and sluggish like the Redeemer was for a time. But like, again, you're essentially doubling the 2 turrets that the Redeemer had into 1 mega turret. You do not want to, like, it's 4 size 5s. Like, you remember how the Redeemer hit. You remember how the turret on top of the Reclaimer hits. It's twice that, like, in 1 turret. That's crazy.
If you're in a Connie or something, or a Corsair, you're going to want to be very concerned when a Paladin enters the room, because that quad size 5 is going to tear you up.
Yeah, so where they're going in, and like a Redeemer's leaving the fight because of its heavy shields and stuff like that, because it wants to regen. This thing, you know, and I almost think a lot of people, because of the armor, it'll probably be a bit more of a defensive ship. So I'm actually thinking there will be some layouts that people do where it's all ballistic, because when they're going back to repair, they'll also go back and re-ammo. So you imagine 4 size 5 ballistics on that thing, you know, and then you've got 3 independent gunners as well as a dedicated pilot. So, and the way that cockpit is done, it is probably the most communicative or, you know, ability to talk to each other cockpit I've ever seen, because you can literally remove the floor so you can audibly talk to each other. Cool. Which is like, they're going for teamwork, make the dream work on this thing, and I love that in ships, just that camaraderie, and I can just see the assistance between the 3 turret gunners going, oh, he's coming on your left, he's going to come across to you, and you know, almost like passing the ball a bit, you know, and even saying, oh, you need to move the turret to the bottom or the top or whatever for the big guy as well, and then also communicating with the pilot where to go and stuff like that. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm really looking forward to this one. Like, it speaks to me.
Real quick, I'll say something else about that, but I did just want to catch up on a few things. Sorry, everybody. Some of my alerts are turned off, and so I have missed a few things. I do apologize. Couple things though. Grimwraith cheered 50 bits, so thank you very much for that, Grimwraith. He says, "Hi Grim, please add the Heartseeker Mark II in the game, or into Fleet Viewer, I think, and the Mark I is there, but not the Mark II. See, he just wants the Heartseeker livery in Fleet Viewer. So I'll talk to VMXEO. I'm not sure if VMXEO is watching right now, and we can probably do that, Grimwraith. Let me look into that. That shouldn't be too big of a lift, especially now that StarFab is updated to account for more of the decal stuff. So. Next thing, got a lot of followers, everyone. Really appreciate that. Obviously, Mufasa, I called out your raid. Thank you very much for your raid and sending your community over. Really, really appreciate that. Again, a bunch of follows tonight. Again, everyone, I turned off the Javelin flyover just because it was a lot, but I do appreciate your follows. It goes a long way. And then Center 55, resubscribe for 12 months at tier 1. Thank you very much, dude. I appreciate you. Plan on raiding you again soon. I know it's been a while. It's just been hard to catch you. But thanks, everyone. One thing I wanted to add about the Paladin real quick, though, is when I think about the Paladin versus Redeemer sort of argument, is one thing to think about in the Redeemer is, for those of you sort of asking yourself that question, I do think the Paladin's going to hit harder and be the bigger brawler in the fight. The only the feather in the Redeemer's cap, though, is it's still the last we heard slated to be modular, and that means CIG might bring some modules for that lower section that do allow the Redeemer some flexibility. So if you do own a Redeemer and you do like the Redeemer and you're feeling a little bit down because the Paladin's coming out, just remember that it wasn't terribly long ago that John Crew reaffirmed, and maybe it was like a year and a half ago maybe, that John Crew reaffirmed in a Spectrum post that they do still plan on doing that at some point, right?
Yeah, and the one he talked about was the original modular head, which was the drop ship type of one. So
yeah,
that's why I kind of still talk about it as an insertion ship.
So so there's some flexibility there, and we'll see what happens with that. But you know, I still hope they follow through on that, because I think that would just give those two ships some further differentiation that is needed. So, all right, we're going to continue on to the next ship here in the list. What is it? Oh boy, it's the Gatak Railen. The Gatak Railen. Let's talk. So this one's funny. Originally, I had this one on my part 2 backlog ship discussion, and the more I got to thinking about it, I was like, you know, this ship could be in active or be going into active production. We did hear on the Ship Showdown Q&A, we did hear Ben Curtis say that they were doing some some sort of look discovery, look dev stuff on the cargo capacity and cargo capabilities of the ship. We did hear that it will take 32 SCU containers now. They did say that the cargo capacity has gone up significantly past what the concept was listed at, which was, it was originally listed at 320 SCU. If I had to guess, it's maybe doubled, or if maybe
that's
not
kind
quite.
of what I said. They give you just enough rope to hang yourself, so you can never tell, can you?
Right.
And like that's so vague. Oh, it's gone way up. Like, what is way up?
But would you feel confident then in saying that this ship, with that cargo increase, let's say it's 320 now, let's say it is pushed to 556, somewhere around there, it's then meant to compete with something like the Caterpillar, right?
This is what I'm looking for. I'm going to be honest. When we heard the Banner Merchantman was growing, it went up in price. Now he's essentially announced that it's going way up in cargo. I'm expecting a price increase for this at Citizen at IAE.
This IAE.
And to reflect that it's essentially got bigger, and I think that'll probably be a little bit of a tip of the hat to where it's going. Like if it doubles in price, then I would say that it probably more than doubles in cargo. You know, so I'm going to use that as a little bit of a gauge. But it is an interesting ship, because the only other ship that's really around that is the whole B in its around its area.
At the current SCU.
It was originally, you can tell it was also originally designed to replace the old Banner Merchantman. The old, you you look up the old, the name Merchantman is these clipper ships from the early 1900s, like around when the Titanic sank. They were steamliners and stuff that essentially, I could be having my time wrong here, but essentially they were designed to run really quickly across from England to America, and that often smuggle stuff like drugs and stuff like that. So it was essentially a smuggling ship, or a blockade runner, and that's essentially what this is. Like, it's all guns. It just breaks through and smuggles shit. And that's what the original Banner Merchantman was. So
and Guardian in chat says from the June update, PU update, it does say pre-production began on the Railen. I must have missed that or forgot about it. So that's good to hear.
It did say that.
Okay,
it did
cool.
say that. I get a feeling this is a ship that's stopped and started a few times, because also about 2 years ago, back when they were starting the Apollo, they actually showed this in exactly the same episode, saying that this was starting production as well. So obviously this is an example of those ones that just get the priority dropped off. Like, again, what do you get from an alien manufacturer? Also, what do you get from another cargo ship when you've got all these other cargo ships? So
I think too, man, this is one of those situations where I would really love to know. Thank you, Guardian, for pointing that out, by the way. But this is one of those situations where, man, I would really love to know the sale quantities of some of these ships specifically, because part of me wonders how well the alien ships sell. And I think they can be all over the place. For example, I feel like the Talons sold really, really well. I think people want the Prowler. I think that's a good seller. I think the Sulin is, I don't think they did very well on the Sulin. I'm wildly speculating on that. I have no information whatsoever. But because of its unique characteristics, I really struggle to think that they sold a lot. I don't know.
It'll come around again. It's the same thing as a Scout. Like they've just dropped out of failure because they don't have that alien flight model. And it's the same thing for this. Like, are they going to go back and add an alien flight model for this, or is it going to come out and be just lackluster because it doesn't have it? That's what I'd hope they'd be working on for this, and obviously go back and do that for the other two.
Now this ship does have a more traditional flight position and character, you know, for the pilot. Like, you're sitting up in a bridge looking forward, it lands, you know, as it does, and you don't have to land vertically or anything like the Sulin. But
you okay? Are you sure?
Yeah,
you sure about that?
I'm semi-sure. But I mean, I think that's about all I can say. But I do think this ship would be, I think this ship would probably be a big seller, especially against the other alien ships we have in the game. You know, for example, the Santoki Eye is another one. I don't know how well that ship did. I just don't know.
Well, considering the Santoki Eye was more expensive than this when this came out, which is just crazy to me.
Crazy.
This came out at I believe it's 225, and that's where the Santoki Eye came out. Like, it's just crazy to me. And like, this chip almost seems too cheap for what it is.
Yeah.
Right. And again, like, obviously you can look at the whole B and go, okay, so it's almost what, $80 more than this, and it's in concept. But again, being an alien ship, you almost expect that alien tax. And again, like, it's more internal. It's not internal like some of the other cargo ships, but let's be honest, it's a lot more covered than the whole series is. And then, you know, the unique animations, the style guides. Like, I think you would agree that a lot of the aliens feel a little bit more premium. They're not all that way. Like, I'm assuming the Vandal will be a bit more Drakey probably. But you get my point. I'm trying to make is that like they have this unique style that the others don't have. I was just really surprised where it dropped. I'm just really keen to see more interior from the Zion.
One thing I really do hope is they offer the paint scheme we're seeing here as an option for it. I do think that the base look of the Railen is going to be more like the Sulin, where it's using that sort of like granite rock kind of texture. I really love this one though, and I hope this is at least an option, because that granite look of the Sulin really does sort of change the vibe of the ship a bit. I'm excited for this one though. I do have one in buyback. It's sitting safely there to kind of grab if I need it. I do love cargo ships that sit in that sweet spot though. That sort of 300 to 600 meter range. So it really does sit in a nice category for it. It's weird. It's different. It's got that profile that when it flies through the air, people, you know, especially new players, there's a select few ships that when new players come into the verse, they got their starter ship, they're doing their first box mission. When they see certain ships fly by, there's going to be that moment of, oh, what the hell was that? You know what I mean? And how can I get that? You know what I mean? And I think the Railen will be one of those.
Well, the Sulian, you know, I try to pick up a lot of the starter ships to show people, and that's one that always grabs people. And then they fly it, and some like it, and some don't. I had a friend that brought it into the game, and he brought the Soy.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's
Interesting.
his starter ship. So, you know, again, I agree with you on the rock stuff. Is that going to be like a Gatak thing that transfers over from the Soy, or are they going to make it stand apart? So, again, you could probably have one skin that does the rock stuff and one that goes the other way. But let's be honest, I do wish they kind of went back to the Soy and had ones with and without the rock stuff.
I agree. Yeah, and it's a beautiful texture. It does look really cool, but it's got a look to it. You know what I mean? And it's even when they do versions that are in different colors, it still kind of looks like what it is. So we'll see. But from if this is in pre-production,
long story short, come AIE. Pick up an upgrade. You can get a Terrapin to this for $5 and just sit on it. If it doesn't price jump at AIE, that is. But that's kind of essentially what I've got. I've just got a couple of CCUs just sitting there, and if it's a $5 investment. It's not a lot. You can melt it and get rid of it. If it comes out and you don't like it.
By the way, everyone, don't forget we are giving away an Apollo triage tonight, courtesy of CIG. We're actually not giving it away tonight. You can enter it tonight. We're giving it away on Sunday. Sorry, we're giving it away on Sunday, part 2 episode of the Backlog. To enter that, just look for the Gleam link that Artorius is pasting into chat. Go to that Gleam link. A couple ways to enter there to give you three free tickets. It's free. Get in on that, and we'll give that ship away on Sunday. You do not need to be watching on Sunday to win, by the way. That's why I'm doing it through Gleam. So get in on that.
You're doing it way better than how I was going. I was going to make people dress up like doctors and nurses, and the best looking photo wins. So you're doing it way better than me.
That would be funner. That would be funner. Yeah. Here's what I will say. If you're a fan of the Railen, if the Railen is in active pre-production / production possibly now, during CitizenCon, I am still of the mind and sincerely hoping that the ship team shows us this year's silhouette video. We see a lot of content surrounding them. People love them. They give us a lot of content. If this ship is actually in pre-production now or moving into production, I would expect to see this ship in the silhouette video. Let's just say that. That remains to be seen, but we'll see.
Ironically, with that going in around about here, it won't be next Alien Week, but the one after. I think they finally do need to release a ship at Alien Week that's an alien ship. I think that kind of makes sense.
I don't know if they ever have they?
They never have. And
that's
I think
crazy.
It would just be like again, if you add 18 months from around about, they've kind of stated it, they'd probably only have to sit on it for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And then release it at Alien Week.
All right, everyone, we're moving on. The Gatak Railen, awesome ship. Looking forward to it. We are moving on, though. Here we go. The next one, the RSI Perseus gunship. Now, this one is one we do have information on, and that is it is in not only very active development, but last we heard in monthly report, it was in Lot 0 phase, which most assuredly is past that now. We've received a few sneak peek images. Here is one of those. Now you can kind of see the exterior. Again, what you're seeing here is Lot 0. The final version will probably have a little bit more color separation going in with the textures, probably some wear and tear, and probably a little color injected into it. But what you are seeing here is a very detailed model with all the decals and all that kind of good stuff. This is a 100 meter, last we've known, 100 meter ship with two dual size 8 ballistic cannons.
I would add the rumor of the
rumor. I guess that's correct.
Because strongly implied
that it's size 8. It was size 7 in the concept. Strongly implied that it's size 8. They are bespoke weapons. We've talked about this at length, but
kind of makes sense because it kind of puts it between like 5 and 10, so it's kind of like right in that middle ground, so it can kind of shoot up and shoot down. It makes sense to me to be kind of around about 8. The real feature of this ship though is those ballistic turrets are bespoke, and so they essentially have load different ammo types, which is essentially it kind of allows you to change the guns a little bit on the fly by changing your ammo, which is going to be a really unique feature, to be honest.
Well, and we have heard on the Ship Showdown Q&A, I mean, one of the things we heard a lot about, or no, we didn't hear a lot about, what am I talking about? We heard a lot of like hints surrounding bespoke weapon flexibility and upgrade paths. I think that is really interesting that something like that would come along when we know that the Perseus is coming. So I think that's really interesting. I think I think that's going to be probably one of the bigger surprises at I guess it would be IAE, right? Or is it CitizenCon? We'd hear about that. Right, IAE.
They just said the end of the year, so I
End
think
of the
that
year.
implies AIE December. But like anyone knows that's followed this game long enough, when they work on one thing, they tend to work on other things. So if they were making but we know they had to make a bespoke multi types of ammo for this ship, why wouldn't they take that and put it into every, all these other guns and even FPS weapons and stuff like that? So I think it's definitely a gameplay feature that was worked on, and that's not done by ship people. That's literally a gameplay feature. So if the gameplay team worked on it, they would have done it and planned it out in such a way to cover the whole game, not just ships, because again, you're recreating work if you've got to go back and do it again. So they'd kind of plan it out. And I think that's probably why the ship team picked this one, knowing that the gameplay team were doing that.
By the way, Vitor Cross, thank you for the follows. Really appreciate it. I will try to clutch the follows, everyone. I know I've had quite a few tonight, so thank you. Thank you very much. If you're a fan of the Perseus, if you have it in your hangar and you're just waiting for it to go flight ready, it's all but guaranteed this is a this year ship, okay? The phase that it's in, knowing that CIG needs that big ship release for the end of the year for IAE, which they typically do, this is all but guaranteed. What remains to be seen from this is any sort of larger reveal. This is kind of the most, the most they've shown of the ship. I would suspect at CitizenCon they pull back the curtain on this, even if it's not for sale at Citizen, or even if it doesn't go flight ready at CitizenCon.
A little bit like what they did with the Starlancer.
I think a little bit.
Because they showed that at Citizen and then sold it at IA.
That, or even yes, I think that, but even more so, like they did with right before they did the silhouette video at last year's CitizenCon, they showed this brief montage video that showed ships you were going to see at IAE, and they showed some close-ups of the Terrapin Medical, some close-ups of the Intrepid, and then they did this big camera reveal, the Polaris, where the camera went up into the cockpit, did a full run through the entire interior, and then came out, and it was kind of like the big marquee moment of that presentation. I sort of feel like they're going to do the same thing with the Perseus.
They do like to repeat what they do, so not always, and then they change later, but usually for a couple of years they run in a pattern. So I'd agree with that.
Altzilla says, by the way, Altzilla says Kraken silhouette this year. Maybe, maybe not, but even if they don't, we can go ahead and give you the Kraken silhouette right here because I already mocked it up previously. If we do get a Kraken silhouette, hopefully this is what we're seeing, everybody, and I have a feeling it will create quite a buzz in the Star Citizen.
They just take half the ships from the last silhouette and just add it into the next one.
I know.
I'd be kind of annoyed. They did that because this year's silhouette was a bit lame, where they had all the Hornets in there.
Yeah,
it's like we know they're coming already, and you just put them all in. But look, I want to hear in chat. What should Grim call his Perseus? What would be a good name for Grim's Perseus? So just give me some suggestions in there. And,
that's
Grim
a good
out that he likes.
That's a good question. Got a note from Art saying possible mic issues. Let me know, everyone, if I'm fading in and out. If I am, I'll switch back to my headset mic. But so far, I've been using the Elgato mic, so we'll see how it does.
Yeah, not on my end. You're totally fine on my end. So it'd be an OBS issue. It's
cool. So the last thing I'll say about the Perseus before we move on, though, is that if you look at the,
I just saw the names come in.
I know, I did too. If you look at the SC funding charts, you will know that one of the biggest spikes ever is the day that the Perseus concept went live. So I think CIG is fully expecting this ship to be a big seller. I think the current price of this ship, and correct me if I'm wrong, is $675, $650.
That is correct.
Somewhere around that, $675. Where do we think this ship is going to land? Do we want to take any flight ready bets?
I've linked you the funding tracker, by the way.
Okay,
just
cool.
for your own, if you want to bring that up.
Thank you.
Look, we talk about this regularly. So usually, like that's why again the Apollo was a bit weird because it only went up 5%, but usually ships go up 10 to 20%. We do have outliers now in both the Apollo going lower and the Polaris going to 30%.
Yeah.
I would think because this is military, I'd plan for the worst but expect the best type of thing. So I'd plan for 30%.
Yeah, you can see right here this spike was the day.
You got to zoom in, by the way, if you hold
Okay.
Control and scroll. It can sometimes zoom in.
Oh yeah, perfect.
There you go.
You can see that right here, this spike is when the Perseus concept sale started. It says largest single day total yet up to that time period, which is pretty impressive again, because it wasn't too awful long ago. So
it doesn't fit the bell curve. If you look at the bell curve, you can kind of see the line in the background. It's kind of like this, and it's just like completely like half as high again than it should be.
Yeah,
you know,
so
like 50% spike on everything else.
I think this again, and I think the reason that is the case with this ship is, one, it's a brawler, it's a combat ship, it's a military ship, so there's some attraction there. It's also just got it's got kind of that perfect sweet spot size and a low crew count. And I think that just honestly really appeals to people. You know what I mean?
I think it's a couple of things. One of the big things we learned at CitizenCon when we talked to Ben and that was the metric that they kind of found was most people buy ships on how they look more than anything else, because there's not a lot to go by, and this ship just looks aggressive.
It just looks great.
Sleek. It looks really good, and I think that's probably why it sold well.
Shout out to Gavin Rothery, by the way, the designer of this ship. Those of you will know Gavin because he's designed everything from the Odyssey to the Gladius to the Kraken and many, many more ships.
Yeah, I hated on myself for a while because we really hyped this ship on SC Leaks when it was coming out, and I blamed myself. I was always worried that I'd done something to make them hike the price on it for a long time. Now I realized it had nothing to do with me. But yeah, I was just like, I thought, shit, did they make this more expensive because we just made it look really amazing and hyped it up for them? But I think we all do that as content creators, don't we? We talk about we give them a gauge that how things are worth and stuff like that, and I think they're always reading that from the community and pricing things accordingly. And I'd probably say that's the same in the Apollo. Like maybe it hadn't sold too well. Is that why it only went up a little bit? Because they were trying to encourage a few more sales. Now it's finally out, so here guys, buy it just a little bit more.
So there you go, everyone. We're going to keep moving on, but there is the RSI Perseus. If you're excited for that ship, I do not think you have long to wait.
I've got one.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I'm actually really excited to see what I always get the name of it wrong. The War Cloud, Thunder Cloud, Thunder Paint, whatever.
Yeah, Clunder Cloud. Clunder. I'll look it up for you, man. Hang on.
Yeah.
Do you have a Paladin as well, or just real quick?
I do not have a Paladin. I have one in buybacks actually, but I don't have one currently. Actually, the credit that I had purchased the Paladin with is the credit I purchase a ship, melt, put it in buybacks, get the name. So my Apollo is actually with that credit right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
While you're looking that up, I am going to go to the next ship for us to talk about here, and that is the RSI Galaxy. This one was a tricky one because I kind of felt like a little iffy. Thundercloud, Admiral Gruffus is saying Thundercloud.
That's it. Yeah, he's got it.
I kind of felt a little iffy putting this ship in here, only because I think it's farther off than we think. I think CIG is not going to this ship after the Perseus is done. I know I've heard a lot of people say that. I kind of think they're going to hold off on it for a bit, which I hate. I do like the Galaxy.
Yeah, so I think originally this had manufacturing fabrication connotations. It also thought it was originally designed with one module to basically essentially get modularity working. They've clearly moved that onto the Apollo, the modular part. That essentially leaves this now with refining. That would be the gameplay outlier that they would need. And because of that, I think it would drop back, because instead of making a large ship you could essentially just make that a room in one of the bases, or you could essentially put it into the Expanse. There is no need to build a large ship. It's kind of like what the build kind of took over from the you know what I mean, like the
there's a
build
lot
took
of
over
ships
from,
that have started to
the
eat
Pioneer.
on, like eat the eat away at the categories a ship focuses on. And the only real categories this has that's unique at the moment is the refinery stuff. You know what I mean?
It's not even
Versus
unique
flight-ready
anymore
ships.
because it's on, versus flight ready. I'll give you that. But you can put that on the Expanse. You can put on the Arastra.
Yeah.
So there are now other options, and I think you would agree with me. Yeah, Pioneer as well. You could see them doing another ship if they just need refinery. The Expanse makes so much more sense now.
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially
we
at that
know
scale.
They worked on. Yeah, we know they worked on the Starlancer. That MISC is a more established brand. I'll probably say RSI is probably about the same now. Let's be honest, but you get my point, right? Like, what does this? It becomes a priority order. And again, I had a sneaking suspicion that like the way they were saying that this was coming sooner rather than later, I didn't see it because it was too complicated. So my bet at the time was I just picked up a $5 CCU, and in short, I've kind of been proven correct. But I didn't really state those concerns at the time because they said they were going to do it. I just kind of went, well, that just doesn't go with what they normally do. They normally simplify something rather than make something really complex. It's kind of like what they're doing with the Pioneer, the same concerns you have about the Pioneer, but now you take that into account. You can see what they've done. They've essentially split everything of the Pioneer off into its separate little things, and then they're building them beforehand and then merging them all into the Pioneer.
Yeah. By the way, we did have a question from Art, and I want to make sure I get that one. Art says, Artorius just says, do you think most of the Polaris ships we see flying around are actually Perseus loaners? Possibly. I didn't even know the Polaris was a Perseus loaner. I didn't realize
I think
that.
it's a lot of ships that are loaners for bigger ships.
Okay.
So I'd have to go back and actually look.
I would answer yes to that, or I would answer yes to that.
Yeah, so I think a lot of them are just loaners and things like that because ships around that area. It's the only one kind of in that space.
I think exactly what you said, though, where the gameplay focus for several of the modules the Galaxy relies on is already being done or planned to be done at that scale on other ships that are obviously priorities. So, for example, medical, the Apollo has the same medical throughput minus the Ursa and C8R hangar, but it has the same medical throughput in terms of beds. So that's taken care of for the time being, right? The cargo gameplay is being taken care of by a multitude of ships, right? We don't have any problems with that. So it really becomes a situation where it's like, does this really need to happen? Even if you add in some of those other modules, let's say the modules that fall in the other category, like base building and stuff like that, they're putting their focus into the Starlancer build. We already know that. So there's just no rush to this ship, is the issue. And they've been hammering pretty hard on RSI ships for a while now. Meteor, Apollo, Perseus, Polaris. I just have a feeling they're going to take a break after the Perseus.
You'd be better to speak to this than I. Talk about how your staff get burnout and how you're going to move them around and stuff to keep them entertained. Like creative people get bored, basically.
Yeah, I say this a lot about my artists in the film and television industry. First off, designing and doing your craft, whether it's 3D or whatever, it's a muscle. A lot of people, it's not just talent you turn on anytime you want. It is a muscle. And if you don't exercise it, you kind of get terrible at it. For example, I know designers that when they haven't designed for a year or two, coming back to it's hard. And one way to exercise that muscle, whether it's 3D model making, texture work, concept work, design work, is to switch it up and challenge the artist again with something new and different. And it's just a healthy way to keep them engaged and stuff. So I do think they're going to switch off of this. And maybe they'll focus on Drake or MISC or Consolidated Island or whatever. But I do think we're going to shift off of this. So if you were really excited for the Galaxy, something you were really, truly hoping was coming up next after the Perseus, I'm pretty iffy on it. I'll be totally honest with you. I'm pretty iffy on it. So, and that's a shame. I do like this ship. So,
not to go off track at all, but
Yep.
I did hear your voice crack then, like digitally. So
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's when you're moving your head around.
Oh, yeah,
It
maybe
seemed to be
maybe
when
it
you were
is.
moving your head around. Yeah,
Okay.
just letting you know.
All right, thank
but
you.
yeah,
Thank
I
you.
agree with everything you said. Yeah, it's just I can't even place where I'd release this now. Like my brain goes after 1.0 because like once you take everything out of it, like the only thing to be taken off it is refinery, and then you just don't need it.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a lot of work to make a ship of this size. Like we're talking,
it's a big one.
Iron. It's like an Ironclad.
It's
right?
bigger than the Perseus. It's 125
Yeah.
meters. It's 25 meters bigger than the Perseus. So yeah.
Yeah, and I believe the Ironclad's like 126 or something like that. So they're really similar in size. You know, you're getting comparable things with the cargo module. So it's like an Ironclad, but the Ironclad just does cargo, which will make it better at cargo than this is. But this also, like, essentially, one of the things we learned at CitizenCon 2 was essentially goes niche ships or bespoke. So Ironclad, and then it goes modular. Variants. Then modularity is in terms of usefulness. So the more things it can do, the less kind of good it becomes. And so this being modular, it's going to be a jack of all trades. It's not going to be good as a dedicated refinery or a dedicated hospital. You know, so it's going to be really interesting. It is a good ship. Like I'm not trying to shit on it, but it's just the priority thing, and that's what just it makes it really hard for me to say. I want to say it's coming sooner rather than later. But the other thing you got to look at too is if we look at the backlog as a whole, they really have chipped into this quite a bit.
Oh yeah,
like there's not that many on it anymore. Like it's about what 20 ships.
Yeah, about that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Basilia has a question here. Do you think the Galaxy pauses for refining or future fabrication module? We kind of answered that a little bit. I just think the ship in general is going to pause.
It'd be one of those two modules, though. I think the refining, like obviously base building is coming, right, and manufacturing lies in with that. So whether they, you know, I've looked at this as two ways they can do this ship, and the one that makes most logical sense for me is because it has the hangar, and we've seen in both the cargo module and the hospital variant that it can drop vehicles out. Why wouldn't you make it so it can build vehicles or small ships? That's where I think I would go with this as the manufacturing. It doesn't build houses; it builds vehicles and ships, right? And that makes the most sense to me, right? So whether it's that or it is actually base building with drones, the problem with the drones, right, is there's no way for the drones to get out of the module. They'd have to literally make him go out the hangar somehow or go down the elevator or something like that, and it's a little weird because they've got to go. Then again, it changes the size of the drone because they've got to go under the ship. You get what I mean? Like it creates problems. So it's just easier if they're made in the ship and deployed out. And then for the refinery, it's the same problem.
Yeah. Big Daddy Tonk, Blitzy, and Hebford, thank you very much for the subscriptions and follows. Really appreciate you. Salute. I agreed. So Artemis says, question here, what ship or unannounced ship do you think the Paladin team will move on to? Well, actually, really quick, Cosmic Turtle said, doesn't the Orion have a refinery too? It does. Just answer that question really quickly.
Yeah, sorry.
Artemis, what ship do we think the Paladin team would move on to? I don't think we know that ship yet. I don't think that is a ship we know of yet.
Are they splitting them up? Are they wanting to work on another Anvil? Are they sick of it and they want to work on an RSI or a Drake or whatever? Like, I can't mind me. Sorry, I can't do that.
And the funny thing though about that is that's actually the little interesting thing here is that we've got a little bit of a series of Anvil ships that have been worked on. Asgard, we had the Hornets, then the Asgard, now the Paladin. It makes you wonder if they're building up the Anvil toolkit for the Liberator at some point. I'm not saying it's going into production anytime soon. It just kind of makes you wonder if they're sort of tooling that up.
Probably been teaching a lot of different artists, different ones. Like they go from one ship to another and try different ones. Again, I'd look at the ones that have gone into production, like the Railen. We know the Kraken, the Ironclad. They'd probably just move one onto the pre-production ships and roll them into production.
Let's see here. Moving on, one more here from Vasily, and then we'll move on to the next ship here. If not Galaxy, what's next?
Well, I think in production.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you look at what's in pre-production and production, it's a lot of monsters. I mean, the Ironclad, and there's 2 variants, just like XQ said, Kraken, 2 variants. And here's something that people forget. The Pioneer, obviously, which is a really complicated ship, but there's another ship people shouldn't forget about, and I'm pretty certain CIG is working on it. It's the Javelin. I think they're getting the Javelin spruced up for its post Squadron 42 release into the PU as well. If we go by what John Cruz said, the last we heard, the last we knew was they were still planning on those 2 modular rooms. He even had said a while back that they were taking a fresh look at what was needed to bring the Javelin up to PU. Well, so 5 originally, but I heard recently that that's been moved to 2 modular rooms. I don't have full confirmation on that. By the way, Rage One just gave out 5 community subs. Rage One, thank you very much. Salute to you, buddy. Appreciate it. Rage One was kicking ass during the St. Jude-a-thon we were doing in April and May. Thank you very much, Rage One, for those gifted tier 5 subs. Appreciate you.
Can I just say I did really enjoy that story between the person I introduced to you and him the other day. I found it very touching.
Yes, yeah.
He got a bit sappy with Grim, and he was saying, "Oh, I've personally been affected by St. Jude's, and they really helped out my family." And
yeah. Well, again, big shout out to our boy Ender for getting the St. Jude stuff going on the STARJUMP side of things, and we appreciate him for that. So Ender, shout out to you, buddy, with all that. But yes, the Javelin. I mean, the last we heard, that is something they're working on, and so that work is going on too. So CIG does have some big stuff going on. Let's move along, though. We do have other ships to cover. We're going to slide right on over to a ship we were just sort of talking about, and that is the Drake Ironclad and Ironclad Assault. So I think you'd agree with me, Execute. This, like you said earlier, this is the ship that we kind of have on multiple occasions thought was much further along than it is. But, and I, just so everyone knows, I am a huge Ironclad fan. This thing like ticks off all my design spider senses. This is like the perfect ship for me. I do wish they'd let you fly it from the command module, or from the command bridge, sorry. But I will say this about, I will say this about the Ironclad. The more I've thought about it, the more I'm happy what I'm hearing in the PU monthly reports, because what they've been saying in the monthly reports specifically is that they've been doing a lot of changes to the internal flow of the ship, meaning how you get from one place to another place to another place.
Yeah.
And when this ship was originally concepted, I'll be totally honest with you, I did have a slight fear that I was like, oh, please don't be like the interior of the Caterpillar, where it's just like you're going up and down and this way and that way just to get out.
I learned.
If they're taking the extra time so that they can properly give this ship the love and attention it needs, I'm all for it, because I want this to be a good ship. It really fits in a pretty amazing size, like ship size to cargo size ratio. It's about 126 meters long, I believe, so Carrack sized, yet it carries 1,500 SCU of cargo, which is pretty amazing. And not only does it carry that much in cargo, it's got a flexible cargo space that you are going to be able to use in different ways. The Ironclad, for example, is going to be a perfect ship in the future if you want to open up a store and mag-locked items to it. It's going to be perfect for that, I see it having a lot of interesting future gameplay ramifications. So one thing that is interesting about the Ironclad before I hand it over to you, Execute, is we haven't, like a lot of other ships, we haven't really got any sneak peek stuff with the Ironclad, and that's primarily, I think, based off what they've been saying in the monthly report, where the ship really is still kind of in the white box, gray box zone. And what I think is going on is that the ship is still technically white box, but they're using Drake kit assets. So probably visually, like if you look, if they open the ship model now that they're working on, it probably looks really far along because they're using the kit pieces. But in terms of actual ship production, I think it's a little earlier still than what we're thinking. However, I think we are in agreement on when we think this ship is coming. And are you still in agreement with that? And when is that date?
I think it's next Invictus is what I think.
Yeah. Drake Defense Con, sort of the sister, Invictus event. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to kind of add to what I was saying about modularity, variance, and kind of bespoke. Just to give an example, the module if you take the hangar and the module of the Galaxy and add that together, it is exactly the same amount of cargo as the Caterpillar at 576. Whereas Grim says this one's what, 1,500? It's almost three times the amount.
Yeah, so somewhere around there.
So it's kind of showing you, because it's 2 runs down, it's almost like a third the cargo.
Yeah, it's
so you are giving up a lot to get that versatility.
Yeah, it's so the Ironclad is 1,536 and the Ironclad Assault is 1,152. Still got a lot of cargo in the Assault version. So yeah, I mean that's,
and you've got to pay to move that whole Galaxy around too. You see, so like it's really going to start to cover your bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last but not least point that we need to bring up is related to the command modules. Now, that is essentially a feature, and that has to go to the feature teams. And just so you understand, for those not familiar with how this works, the feature team is going to build the functionality in the engine for command modules to work. And then that is a feature. That feature is then put into the engine, handed over to the ship teams so that the ship teams can then build things that plug into that feature. The exciting thing there is, and I think we talked a little bit about this, is I'm excited for what other ships we could see with command module functionality from maybe even from other manufacturers.
I'd have to assume they're going to use the Caterpillar as the test bed because it's kind of more done than this. But again, rolling that back, anyone that's flown the Caterpillar, I am kind of looking forward to flying this because flying at the back and off to one side is a very unique experience. It is, Caterpillar. And the ship being so long, I think it'll be a very similar flight experience in this as well.
It's very, I don't know the word to describe. It's a very active experience because you're off to the side. I think it feels like it pulls you in a little bit more, and you have to almost pay attention a little bit more. Vasily says, question: do we think the Ironclad becomes a placeholder for the Liberator?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Especially the Ironclad Assault to the Liberator. I can see that 100%.
Dale Buchanan asks, was cargo rework that was in monthly report the Hull B rather than the alien ship? Cargo rework. I know they talked about a cargo rework going into the Railen, but that was on the Ship Showdown Q&A. There was a mention, I think, in the monthly report about a ship and its cargo grid and maybe sort of a unique situation there, but I'd have to look at it again. I'm not sure what ship that is that applies to, Dale.
Yeah, same.
Cable X says, just curious as to when you think the refinery gameplay loop will be in game, which would lead to the Odyssey being produced. I think you're specifically referring to ship-based refinery gameplay because refineries are in game now. The ship-based refineries, I'll be honest with you, I think it has to come online with crafting. And
I think you'll see it in the building first, basically.
I think crafting whenever crafting is coming online, I think we're going to get refinery gameplay as just part and parcel of crafting. So, all right, moving along. Ironclad, exciting ship.
I think I'm going to be honest. I think you're going to see that a lot with gameplay going into buildings a lot more now. Because it's going to be a lot quick. Like if you think about it, designing the entire exterior of a ship, because essentially a ship is just bespoke rooms. But if you can just put that in a building, you can iterate on that really quickly. You can test it. You can get it out to either Cardi and actually kind of test it and see that it works, and then take that and put it into a ship. It's going to speed up the process in a lot of ways. So it's beneficial for both Star Citizen, but also them from developing Star Citizen. So I think you'll see a lot of things come in a building variant now before you see in a ship.
Yeah, especially with this critical as base building and crafting is going to be to the future of the game, you're going to start to see a lot of gameplay systems hook into those and become, and their importance is going to increase when those come online. So
I wouldn't even be surprised if you see some of the ships become a little bit more locked to the room system. I don't want to say locked, but you know what I mean? Because if they can essentially just put all the rooms together that the ship needs and then build the shell around the outside, well, bang, ship done,
Next in the lineup here, a ship that a lot of people really want, and they want badly. This is a ship that pops up a lot. I hear a lot of people almost get almost a little over optimistic that it's going into production soon. There was a period of time where I thought it would be going into production, but that's the MISC Odyssey. Exploration ship.
I was gonna say, I think you hit the nail on the head with this one, though. I think they'll put this in a smaller ship first.
Yeah. I agree. The unique thing with the Odyssey, though, is that it is an exploration ship, not that much different than the Carrack. However, it's exploration.
Really?
Well, I'm going to qualify it with this. It's an exploration ship, but this one is more.
Pathfinder.
I guess where I would say is where the Carrack is more maybe pure exploration. This one is more like industrial exploration to me. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yes, but they actually have names for them. That's what I'm trying to find. Star System Explorer name.
I mean, I can. While you're looking at,
and I believe the Carrack is Expedition. Then there's Pathfinding, and then there's a third one, and I can't remember which one this is. Right?
You're right. There is this. Damn it! I know what it is too.
Yeah, I forget. I'm just trying to remember what the official names are.
Pathfinding is like the smaller tier of it.
Yeah, they did like it was this small little grid in this image from like 10 years ago now.
Yes,
and it was Pathfinding.
Expedition.
I can't remember
and
Pathfinding, Expedition, and was a third one, and I can't remember which one the third one was.
Yeah, one thing we can say though is that one of the unique things about the Odyssey is that it does have mining capabilities. You can see the pod here on the lower bottom that someone can sit in. It's almost like a little flipped upside down prospector pod with a mining arm. The stuff that it mines, it is actually able to refine on board and use that refined material for fuel. Now, it's very, very important to note that its refinery is not able to export refined material to be used. It's currently concepted to only refine stuff to be used as fuel, okay, which essentially extends its range. Now, we'll see if CIG changes that. I honestly could see a world where CIG changes that little aspect and allows it to also put out refined material in a limited capacity. Like maybe it has a really small buffer or something, but I could see that being something.
Personally, I think what that is, right? Because we saw these drums in the walkthrough when they did it. I think it's like a real estate agent, right? I think it goes down, finds really good land plots, puts down a land claim, and then sells the land plots. But that is like a core driller, like they have when they go down and they can see all the resources and stuff like that. So they take like a core sample and they go, look, this is a core sample that we took from the area. These are all the resources that you can potentially find on that we found in that land plot. Oh, and by the way, the reason why it can also, because it needs to do the mining to be able to take that core sample, but also it can extend its own time out and about by giving itself fuel.
Yeah,
and you got to remember, this thing is if the Carrack is scanning space, it doesn't need a lot of fuel because by comparison, this thing is essentially VTOLing the entire time that it is like scanning the planet because it's low service. So it's going to burn a lot of fuel. So it's going to need to keep itself hovering a lot. So that's why it's got the miner. So it can literally keep flying in atmosphere. That's why it needs it, because it's going to be burning a lot of excessive hydrogen, not quantum fuel, but hydrogen to keep itself essentially afloat.
Hudson Hawk asks a great question that I think is important to cover when covering any exploration ship, and that is, what is the point of exploration ships in a small universe like ours? We don't even have all the systems that were shown on the map on the website. So I think what we're referring to here is sort of that Star Citizen 1.0 5 system release, which there will be systems after that. But here's my opinion on it. I think there will be multitude ways exploration rears its head. But I think the one fundamental part, or the one fundamental thing that will make exploration critically important is exploring the planets we have and moons we have, finding the optimal place to build bases. One thing, going back to the CitizenCon presentation on bases and the whole Genesis Planet Tech V5 thing, if you remember, they talked about the resources that are in a planet or in a specific area that you're going to build, those resources are finite and will run out. They even talked about the ability to move your bases when those resources move out or dry up. And exploration ships, I think, when we do get Planet Tech V5, I think they're going to be able to scan, they'll send out those pings, and within a certain amount of radius, you're going to see what resources are present underground on a planet's surface. And that is going to be your thread that you're pulling on to figure out where you need to build or what is the optimal place to build. I think there's going to be more to exploration, but I do think that is going to be one of the critical pillars for exploration. Execute, would you agree with that?
I'm sorry, you'll have to tell me the last bit again. Sorry.
Just would you agree though that like finding resources on planetary surfaces for base building is going to be a key, like one of the pillars of the exploration gameplay loop?
So one of the professional point of views that I did years ago was I actually got some geologists that actually went out in game with me, and they kind of explained how real rocks and all that type of work, and it was all in the game. They can actually deploy rocks in a realistic manner. They can, have them run out. They can do nodes underground. They can do rocks on the surfaces, all that type of thing. And then again, I guess if you gamify a bit over time, they could regenerate.
Yeah.
So, but again, the game world is so vast, they could also, it really depends. Like it's going to be the need of the game.
Sure.
Do they slowly regenerate? Do they, do they just pop new ones up?
Yeah.
Because you imagine how a little bit game breaking it would be is, you're out in your Terrapin, you scan this very specific location, and then you come back the next week, and then there's a rock there that you definitely did not see.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did have a question here from I50mm. Will the Odyssey have a terrible view like the Starlancer has, or a better pilot view? One description of the page says it will have an unobstructed view. So while the window here on the Odyssey looks really thin, I think you can see that here. One important thing to remember is this is a massive ship. So that little thin window, when you put a player character in there, that window is actually pretty big, much bigger than you think. And I think you are going to have a pretty big and open view, actually. And it all just has to do with scale. This ship, by the way, just so everyone knows, is the size of the Polaris. A little bit smaller. It's a little bit smaller, but it actually could grow a little bit too. So I think this ship is currently like 155 meters or something like that.
Yeah, show this, Grim. I just sent you the concept for it. If you haven't already got that up, or have you got that up or not?
Yes, I do have that up in the window. Yep.
Yeah, it's got some good images of the windows and stuff there.
Oh, actually, you know what? Let me make sure I do have that. Make sure I have the right one.
The core difference between this and the Carrack is the Carrack has the repair facilities. This swaps out the repair facilities for the essentially mining facilities.
Yeah.
So they're doing it in different ways because again, you're going to be on like a kind of unknown planet, hopefully away from other people.
Yeah.
And so it's about extending your stay. Where the Carrack possibly is running into dangers because it's going to be space-based and easier to find. So that's essentially the two major differences there in my book anyway.
I'm going to pull a little bit of a question here from our good friend Fishbowl. Do we think the nuking of the RMC economy is an indicator of anything? I don't know because I haven't been keeping up with the RMC economy.
What does RMC stand for?
The recycled material stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I need to look into that. I actually have not been salvaging in a while, to be totally honest with you. I mean, I do love salvaging in this game. So I'm not sure, Fishbowl. Sorry. Real quick here. Continue. Hudson Hawk says, do you mean some kind of drilling to get resources that are deep underground? So Hudson, essentially that, but also if you go back and watch the base building presentation at SitCon, one of the things you'll see is giant drilling. Now they drill with lasers, but giant drilling platform for like an industrial base. Well, before you go building some big, expensive laser drilling facility on a surface of a planet, you're going to want to know what's underneath the ground. So that's where that scanning and exploration gameplay comes in, is figuring out where those areas are at before you build your base. That's where you're going to see ships like the Odyssey, the Carrack, the Terrapin, and many others really come into play.
And we do have the underground drilling stuff.
Yes.
It used to be on the Pioneer, Prospector, and they've split it off. So I think they're going to make that into a separate mining SKU.
Yeah.
The Pioneer is now confirmed to have some kind of resource extraction in its legs.
Yeah.
And they have reconfirmed that underground mining is a thing only a couple of years ago. It was a question that we really pushed up in the Q&A one time.
Yeah.
To see if we can get them to answer that. So it is still a thing. It's just obviously they haven't sold one around it yet. It's just.
Yeah.
I'll give another example. We've got a biopod on the Endeavour, but we don't have any other farming ships. We don't really have many science ships. So there's just a lot of gameplays that have essentially just waiting in the wings for them to create them. And this is just one that's a lot of people, especially if you haven't been around the game. God, I'm trying to think of the last time they really talked about mining. It would be almost a decade ago at this point. And I'm talking like back to the mole. Right?
Oh,
That's where how far back I'm going. So not a decade, but you know what I mean? Like they haven't talked about underground mining.
Yeah. Besides just small new little features like the mining consumables and stuff. Yeah.
It was back when the Prospector was first concepted, they talked about underground mining and surface mining. And it's been a very, very long time.
Vasily says, doesn't the MISC Odyssey being confined to mining only Quantanium make no sense at all? It literally sits between the Astra and the Orion. We'll see if that limitation stands. I didn't even know that was a limitation of its mining, but if that's the case, because it's mining Quantanium for fuel. We'll see. It seems like an odd restriction to put on it, but again, from what we know, the Odyssey just, at least currently in its concept, doesn't have any way to export the goods it's refining or that it's mining other than injecting it straight into the refinery to be processed for fuel. That's all we know.
The other restriction that they never talk about is the laser itself. So the Mole has 3 size 2 lasers. This has 1.
Right.
So it's tiny. You know, like the Prospector's only got a size 1, but like literally you're going to a capital size ship.
Yeah.
And it's only got 1 of the 3 lasers a Mole does. That tells you how little mining this thing is going to be doing. And positioning that entire ship just for that 1 little laser, it's the math. Like it's doing something unique. It's not doing it for fun.
Especially when it can carry a Prospector is kind of interesting. We're going to move on, though. We still got a couple more ships to get through here. The next one's a pretty important one. We're moving up a little bit here in scale. We're moving to the Consolidated Outland Pioneer. Now, this is an interesting one because we did get a lot of information on this at last year's CitizenCon. I'm expecting maybe an update on it at CitizenCon this year, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a production update.
Yeah, just a slight. I don't think it'll be anything in depth because I think it'll just be like, we're still working on it, but we could get a little bit of a brief teaser of it.
I think minimum we see this end of the next year, but more than likely possibly after that as well.
I agree with that. I agree with that assessment. Primarily just because I think CIG is starting it this early because they know it's going to take a while. One interesting thing about the Pioneer on your show and my show, we've covered in depth the changes to the Pioneer concept. I've stated for the record that I think the changes to the concept are really nice. I like the changes they made. Sure, it's a little disappointing that it doesn't transform and everything. I know Starlet had pointed that out one time before. I do think that sucks a little bit. However, the usefulness of the ship to me is much more prevalent now. It does a lot of things from onboard fabrication to onboard crafting machines, integrated resource extractors, et cetera, the extra large drones, which currently are the only thing that unlock the ability to build the supply bay, which builds the space station. So a lot going into this ship. If CIG continues to go down this road with this ship is definitely being positioned as a for the industrial player, this is the end game gold star ship you are playing the game to earn. Like, this is it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One thing interesting, though, I was just going to point out is on its original transmission page, which doesn't have a date. I thought it was pretty amazing how much the current interior design stuff they're doing does look like the original concept imagery. Kind of crazy.
Yep. They do plan it out a lot.
Yeah.
So on your point there of transforming, I think the other side of the coin, though, is this ship was mainly a frame that you built with inside. So essentially, in a weird type of way, if you kind of look at like a whole series to a Banner Merchantman, it's gone from a very external based ship to a very internal based ship. So I'd actually kind of argue getting a lot more value for your money. And even though it changed its shape a little bit, the ship actually grew by 20%.
Yeah.
So yes, you are giving up that transformation, but also you gain the extraction out of the ground. You've also got fabrication and base building, and you can build vehicles on it. Like, it got a lot extra features.
A lot
like
extra features.
It pretty much I'd say it probably more than doubled what its original content was. And as soon as the ship came out, we saw issues with it straight away, as I think you did as well. Like, how do you land this thing on a hill and build a base? Oh, you can't. So you're always going to have to be looking for flat ground. So we realized very straight away that the whole thing had to change.
Well,
we often wondered the price limited on it.
Yeah.
The made it a limited time ship. We often wondered, was that because it was up in the air so much?
Well, I used to say to tons of people, anyone that would listen, I was like, before the reconcept was revealed, I was like, it's hard to drive a cyclone on the surface of a planet without an obstruction. I'm like, for this thing, it's going to have to hover above where you're building the base to build them. The new
What's the snub going to do? Go along and remove all the rocks for you so you can land? Like is it going to literally flatten the terrain so you can land?
I'll be honest with you. When they revealed the reconcepting of this at CitizenCon, I was one of the people that was like kind of cheering in my head because I thought that this was a reconcepting that CIG nailed. Why? Because they put gameplay first and quality of life first. You know what I mean? For example, the resource extractors being in there, the crafting stations being in there. It just, to me, they took a step back. They looked at what this ship was going to be used for in the verse, and right from the get-go, instead of after the fact, said, how can we make this the ultimate industrial player ship in the verse? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I look. We kind of knew it was going to be drone based when we saw images from, I think it was a year or two before, where they had drones building buildings. And we went, oh yeah, you just put drones on it, and then the drone flies over, and it doesn't matter where you land. It just, how far can those drones go? And obviously, I'd assume, you correct me if you think I'm wrong here, the bigger a drone is, the further it can go, kind of like how far the medical beds go. I think it's akin to that, especially with some of the larger drones, that we're getting to ship-sized drones when they get really big like that. And they obviously carry more cargo and don't have to come back as frequently and all that type of thing. Because obviously, with this being such a large ship, you probably are going to have to go out of your way to travel a little bit. And when I say a little bit, I'm talking a couple of kilometers to possibly get to somewhere where you want to build something. That's,
by the way,
you know what I mean.
By the way, Cannonless, Enslot, VPZ, thank you for those follows. I do appreciate you. Hudson Hawk did ask, do we agree with CIG's decision that the Pioneer cannot be obtained through CCU chains? No, I don't agree with that. I think any ship should be attainable through that process. But what are your thoughts on that, Execute?
I didn't understand this for a really, really long time. I was like, why can't I get a Polaris, but I can't get a Consolidate Outland? And I think it's always been the plan. And I think this is the only example of this that I have, right? So again, take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt, and it is speculation on my part. But I think they actually plan out what a price is going to be and what a price is going to go to before they even sell a ship, right? And I think they knew that eventually this was going to be over $1,000. And so to stop the money laundering stuff that is that you have in the United States, they cannot sell things that are over $1,000. They knew that this was going to go over $1,000, so they made it limited, just like an Idris, a Kraken, and a Javelin, and they've treated it as such the entire time.
Yeah.
I think that is my takeaway from it. I am gambling on that fact because I picked up one of these last AIE for credit, and
Nice.
there is a established evidence of this. When something goes over $1,000, it automatically gets LTI. Right.
Yeah.
So what happened? We've only got one instance of this as well, and that was the master set for the Endeavor. It was $950. They added a second biopod so you could have the full farm, which made sense because you needed both. You need two of them to be able to make the farm, and so that made the price of it go from $950 to $1,050. And retroactively, every single one of those packs that had 6 months insurance or whatever the amount of insurance was became LTI, and I am hedging my bets. That's what's going to happen with this, and so I brought one at $975, and I'm just going to $925,
yeah,
and I'm just going to sit on it. And again, you know, that 10 to 20%, even at 10%, that means it goes over 1,000.
I mean, don't we have to start seeing though pretty damn soon, like at this year's IAE, they've got to start incrementally raising the price of this ship significantly. I mean, wouldn't you agree this is a $2,000 ship at the end of the day, or Idris price?
Okay, so it's not combat related.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It is utility based. The big difference with this ship over other ships. So let's take the Orion. Right. It is the complete opposite of an Orion, because an Orion are taking resources out of the game, and you make your money from essentially nothing. I don't know how else to say that, right? You're taking it out of the game.
Yeah.
This is a monster. This thing is just eating resources. So it's going to cost a shit ton to run.
Yeah.
And I think that means like
probably the most expensive ship to run and operate, if I had to guess.
Well, the original pack came with a land token and enough resources to build your first base.
Yeah.
So they had to include that's never been done in a ship before. They had to include the resources to get it to work. Right. Because if you don't have something to feed this, you are essentially la fucked, as the French would say. Right? Yep. You've got nothing that you can do. Right. Yep. So you need it tells me straight off the bat that this is a different beast, Grim.
Yeah.
It's not like the others. And I don't know how to price that because it's a drain on your resources. Yeah. It's a massive drain.
P9 and Solar, thank you for the follows.
You're going to need an org behind you to pull it off. There's just no other way.
Just looking at the size, what it brings to the verse, the fact that it's a key to unlocking space stations, which there's an argument there. I'm going to do a whole episode on this soon, everyone, about space stations and what I think CIG needs to do in terms of scale on those. But regardless, at its current price, it's sitting around Polaris price. This thing is this thing's a monster compared to the Polaris. There's no way it doesn't go up some. I'm seeing some people in chat say 1,200, some say 1,500. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I could see it. I mean, look, first off, I want every ship to be cheaper, but I would love to. Yeah, go ahead.
Do me a favor. Yeah. Drop the Kraken, the Idris, and the Javelin in next to this thing.
Yeah. It's I could do. Well, I mean,
just real quick,
you can see the Kraken's right next to it. I mean, it's
very large physically, but you got to also remember it.
Yeah.
It's a hard one because that's the old model.
Yeah, so it's the old model, but I did scale it up to 247 meters, which is how big the new one is. 257, I forget. Either way, I did scale it up to it's the old model, but I scaled its length correctly. It's just a big ship, complicated ship, etc. So it's one of those ships to me, very much like the Merchantman, very much like the Polaris, honestly, for a lot of people. There's going to be those people that have it for whatever they got it at, and that is probably going to be a steal for what it comes out at, flight ready. It would not shock me if over the next 2 IAEs, we do see price adjustments for this ship, only because they will want to avoid, when this ship goes flight ready, having to bump it up by $600-700.
You really reckon it's going to go by $600-700?
I think it's $1,500 ship. I really do. do. I mean, look at the Kraken. The Kraken is another technically civilian industrial ship.
Yeah.
and it's what 16,
But
1700 war bond.
but it's just so resource heavy. Like it's just a taker. It just takes and takes and takes. It doesn't give it. Well, it gives you the shit at the other end, but like it just takes and takes and takes.
Yeah.
Like it can't do anything without other ships. Like, and let's be realistic. We know that there is ores in the games. We know that there are going to be plants and animals in the game. We don't even have that side of agriculture. But just think of how many. Like at minimum, you're going to need some kind of like Orion and some kind of capital animal, fruits, vegetables, plants ship, if that's not 2 ships, by the way, feeding into this thing to get this thing to build essentially cities. Like it's this thing is going to be eating shit like crazy. Like this thing's a taker. Like I don't think people realize that.
Yeah, you totally might be right. I guess I'll say this. This will be, usually for IAE, there are a number of things I look out for, right? Like on my bingo card. I think one of the things that's going to be on my bingo card this year is, does the Pioneer go up in price? Now, to be fair, the Pioneer had the opportunity last season or last IAE to go up in price, which was right after they showed the reconcepted Pioneer. So that would have been a good time to jack up the price a little bit. They didn't do it, right? Am I right?
They did. No, they did. They went from $850 to $925.
Oh, okay. So it did go up a little bit. Okay.
They went up by $75.
It wouldn't shock me if it goes up another $75.
And they removed the land claim.
And they removed the land claims. Yeah.
So technically, you look at the minimum land claim. I think they were $75 on 150. So technically, they almost increased the price by $150 in a weird turn of phrase. But I
hope we get an update for it this year. I do hope CIG talks soon. Not that they need to talk about it right away, but I think they do need to talk about it whenever base building comes into the game. Not necessarily the Pioneer, but base building. I want to hear what's up with those land claims. They said they were going to think up some sort of plan for those. I want to see what that is.
Yeah.
I'm honestly thinking it's going to be, if you have a land claim, it gets you a percentage off of taxes for that build. I think it's going to be something like that.
I'm expecting the Starlancer build to be the showcase of base building, not this, because the build's kind of done. And I think that is what we're going to see at CitizenCon. I think, essentially a third of it is going to be new ships. Genesis or Planet Tech V5 will be a part of it. And I think the other part will be base building and crafting. And I probably hope that base building and crafting is bigger than the other two, maybe half of it. Or maybe it's 4 pieces, base building, crafting. But you get my point, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't see it. Maybe it's an update with the Pioneer or where certain ships are in the pipeline, but I've got a feeling it's got to be the build because we know it's just sitting there waiting.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that'll be the one they use.
We're going to truck along for the sake of time, everyone. We're going to truck along. Our show's a little longer than I thought, but that's okay. We're going to go. Oh, no, it's all good. Just having a good conversation. All right, next ship is my favorite ship, as everyone knows. We're talking about the Drake Kraken and the Kraken Privateer. Now, 2 very different ships and definitely not guaranteed in any way to be coming out at the same time. That's not something that's been talked about at all, but I put them together because they will probably be worked on from a hull standpoint at the same time. We do know the Kraken is in pre-production. The Kraken is a unique ship in that this is a conversation starter ship, much like the Merchantman, much like the Endeavor, much like, ships like that when CIG teases them, when CIG just has a brief mention of them, they get people talking. The Kraken is definitely one of those. The Kraken is the ship, just to give it, I'd followed Star Citizen since the original Kickstarter. I remember reading a news article about it, went to the Kickstarter. I actually did put money into it, the Kickstarter, but I've lost that account somewhere in the ether. But I really kind of just tuned in every now and then to check in with Star Citizen about once a year. Every CitizenCon, I'd listen to Chris's speech. But in 2018, when I saw the Kraken, like the concept thing for it, that's really what slapped me in the face and got me to pay attention to Star Citizen in a big way. It was the ship that pulled me in. It is a light attack carrier, 270 meters long. It's a big boy. Has multiple landing pads on its top deck there. I think it can stick 2 mediums and 4 2 mediums and 4 extra small landing pads. And then there are 2 extra small internal landing hangars. It's got a multitude of things in it, from medical bays to dragonfly bays. It's got a massive cargo hold of, I think, I always forget the cargo hold, but it's like 3,000 CU. It's a big boy, and it's in pre-production. Thoughts on the Kraken?
This is why I moved to the numbered pad size, so 4 S1s and 2 S3s.
Yep.
I keep coming back to what they did with the Idris, right? And knowing how they sold the kits, and knowing how, like, you can't regularly sell things over $1,000. That's a lot of money, and you can't. But you can resell kits to people that have already bought them to essentially upgrade the ship they have. So you're getting a lot of on-selling with those kits. I can't see them not doing this for this after what happened with the Idris. I know a lot of people that brought those kits on the day it dropped, and that, you know, some of them were like $500 each.
I had an idea. I had a kit idea.
I've actually got a kit idea for this one too.
I want to hear your kit idea first.
But I actually think they will do both of these at the same time, and I'm expecting at least one more kit when it comes out, if not 2, to kind of put it in line with the Idris. The one for my kit idea is essentially, we know it takes a lot of small ships, so, you know, you could put like prospectors or golems and you know, turn it into a mining hub, or you can put salvages on it and turn it into a salvages hub. Both of those could use a variant that has a refinery and a small shop on it. So essentially you return to this ship, and they will refine the goods that you've collected and then sell them for you. So just a single shop with a refinery, and I think that would be quite cool. And I guess you could be a bit evil and not include the shop and make them so they've got to push it off to elsewhere. But I think that would just be a really good variant for this. Just a single shop and like essentially a refinery shop. So you give up a bit of the cargo bay for a refinery shop that allows other people to land on it and buy resources off you, or sell resources to you, because then also you can be collecting them from other people to refine for them, or just refining for people too.
I like that. I love that idea. I think that makes a lot of sense. Here's my kit idea, and it's a little bit of a wild one, but I thought about it and I was like, this could be interesting and very unique to the Kraken. I actually thought one interesting kit idea was, what if you could buy a, you know, there's the port side, so the left side primary deck there with the 2 medium pads on it. What if there was a kit that changed that, and it may have changed, it may have to change a little bit of the dimensions of the deck to where it covers over that more middle part of the ship. But what if there was a deck option that was 1 large ship up to a certain scale? So it went from 2 medium pads to 1 large pad, up to, or whatever that size range is. What is it? The 60 to 70 meter range.
Why don't you go one step further and just make it so it's a little bit like the Apollo, and there's 3 different modules for it. So you can have 4 size ones, or you can have 2 medium or 1 large, and you can do it either side.
That could be interesting. By the way, everyone, I do not think they're doing that in any way. I'm just saying that it would be really awesome. Now, I will say that I proposed to Gavin Rothery one time, the guy who designed this ship, along with others at CIG, of course, but I did propose to Gavin one time that the internal hangars on the starboard side of the ship, those internal underneath hangars, I said, why couldn't the Kraken have 2 more underslung internal hangars on the port side? It doesn't seem like anything's there, and if you plugged them in, all you would need to do is connect the back of those hangars to the tramway. I don't think he put a lot of thought into it, but he did reply to me and said there's not enough, or he just said it wouldn't work. Because I thought that would be a good kit idea too. But again, my kit ideas are more changing the carry capacity of the ship. So, but I think the more thoughtful way of doing the kits, though, would be plugging into existing gameplay loops, like you're saying. So refinery features to plug into industrial gameplay, whatever.
So,
but expanding what the ships already do, right? So, like, I look at things like people ask me, what would you want the Javelin modules to be? What would you want the Carrack modules to be? And I'll take the Carrack because it's a better example. A medical module that expands the medical gameplay, a repair module, you know, a scanner sweep module, and a cargo module.
Yeah.
They logically make sense to me because that's what that ship does, and you just kind of expand what it does. For this, you can see that it kind of is a support ship for smaller craft, right? So, like I talked about the refinery one, but also we know it's got the repair hangar bays. Could you expand that repair functionality? Could you, like you said, could you put ship hangars into the cargo bay?
Right.
You know, like so do you give up some of your cargo bay to add a third hangar?
Yeah.
Is that worthwhile? Like I'd have to sit there and actually analyze that. Do you put a fabricator on it that allows you to make components to repair said ships?
Yeah.
You know, there's little things like that. Like, so I would take what this can already kind of naturally do, and just, again, there are some things I'm missing. Like, for example, there is no refinery. But if you add a refinery, that just leans so much more into those smaller ships. So I've had someone say, like, what if you made it a hospital ship? But then it does kind of leap onto the Endeavor somewhat. But like, I could see that, like, because then you can land.
I heavily promoted that. I even built the hospital variant of the Kraken for Fleet Viewers an Easter egg, but I never put it in there. But I still think it's a better hospital ship than the Endeavor Hope would be because of the open deck.
I'd be calling mine the Rusty Scalpel.
By the way, Guardian asks, do you think the Privateer kit will work more like the Idris kits and stop making the Kraken a full-on Privateer, like a full hull switch? Because right now, if you apply the Privateer kit now, you sort of lose your Kraken.
That is correct. They actually state you have to go to a shipyard to apply it, which is exactly the same that you have to do with the Idris kits. And it takes time to switch between the two. They've actually said, though, if you have a Privateer, though, you will be able to go to a shipyard and change it back into a Kraken for a cost.
Viper Pilot, Citizen Tigran, thank you for those follows. Appreciate you. Yeah, that's true. You will be able to go back and forth. It's just going to be expensive and take time.
I hope, right? This is my hope, right? And this is how I would encourage sales, is that you if you have a Kraken and you have the kit but you don't apply it, they just give you all the parts in game.
Yeah.
Because that way you can keep the variant that you like the most, but they would, like, because I know people that go out and buy every kit just so they don't have to grind to get all the pieces.
Yeah.
So let's wait and see. And if they make a refinery one, that would probably sway me to turn it into that variant.
Do you think how last year we got the Pioneer reconcept reveal? Do you think for this CitizenCon they could show the Kraken's reconcepted pre-production pass? Yeah, I think so. I think it would get people talking. Again, the Kraken brings all the girls to the yard, and I think it would. I think it would get people talking.
Just lower your expectations, though, because we've only got 2 hours.
That's true. That's true. We've only got 2 hours.
So it's going to be very focused. The way my brain is going, right, is essentially you take everything that we got in CitizenCon. It is essentially minimum 8 hours usually, right? And you essentially have now turned this into a 2-hour Inside Star Citizen. Yeah. That's what I'm expecting. Yeah. And then I reckon that additional 6 hours or however long you want it to be, I think you'll actually see that as Inside Star Citizen content over the next 6 months. Think about what Jared did at all the last couple of Citizen Cons. He literally was just talking about Citizen Con for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
So now he's going to just, what do you call it? Disseminate that information over the next 6 months himself, and he's not repeating himself.
Yeah, I think if this CitizenCon there is a focus on crafting and base building, which is what I think the focus of the show is going to be, and engineering, but more specifically crafting and base building. I think any ships they show are going to be crafting and base building related. It wouldn't be surprised to me if we get an update on the build and stuff like that, stuff that plugs right into that.
Yeah, it's always updates and it's always things they're doing in the future. And Jared said that things to that effect. Like, look at last year, they talked all about base building. This year, will be updated where they're at. Engineering was meant to come at the end of last year. And it's about to drop. Sorry, I got really bad indigestion.
By the way,
but you get my point.
Yeah, Slave Gunner says the Q&A for the privateer kit says that it's a one-time change, cannot be reversed. The kit itself that you buy for real money is a one-time usage thing, but CIG has stated that if you take the ship to a shipyard or Cousin Crows, for example, you will be able to in-game in the future pay for the switch between Kraken and privateer. It's just they did say it's going to take a lot of time and be very expensive. So,
and I did say it was my hope. It was my hope that you could just have it and keep it separate. I didn't. Yeah. So just to clarify.
But the Drake Kraken, I mean, again, I hope we get an update soon. I am deeply excited about this ship. It is like my golden goose ship. You know, it's the dream ship. The day that I know this ship is going to hit the PTU or whatever will be a day that I take off work. And it's going to be like there's going to be a thing around it. It's reliving that G.I. Joe USS Flag dream of that I had when I was a kid. So.
I have to call in some favors just to delay the release by 24 hours.
But that is the Drake Kraken. Moving on to our last ship of the evening. Let's give it the attention it deserves. The Aegis Javelin Destroyer, the currently, this won't be forever, but currently the largest player purchasable ship in Star Citizen. We do know that we're going to get a battle cruiser at some point, and eventually we're going to be able to build Bengals and all that stuff. But right now, this is the biggest player purchasable ship. It is 480 meters long. It has, I think, last we heard 5 modular rooms, but I've been hearing some rumors lately that it's been that has been slightly changed, and it's now there's going to be 2 modular rooms. We'll have to see what that is. Take that with a grain of salt, but go ahead.
Maybe they dropped it to 2 larger rooms or something like that.
Maybe so yeah.
5 smalls, it's like 2 mediums or something. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But again, I would say the same thing I just said before about the Carrack. Like, you look at this ship and what it does.
Yeah.
What could they be? Like, so one of the ones me and Aga talked about this. So you look at what the ship does, like an admiral's quarters, an extra hangar, an extra armory, or extra troops, or extra cargo, etc., etc., etc. You can see very quickly.
Yeah.
You just take what the ship already does and expand it.
Yes, the ship also, one cool thing about it, if you're into this, is it does fire size 12 torpedoes. I do forget how many it holds. There are some differences between the Squadron 42 Javelin and the PU Javelin. For those of you that have ever watched some of the Squadron 42 gameplay videos and have noticed some differences between the Javelins across from that and the PU, there are differences. For example, the Squadron 42 Javelin, I believe, has a primary turret that has I want to say it's a dual size 10 turret, while the PU version has a quad size 9. So there are some differences in the Javelin's armament, and John Crew has sort of spoke about this supposedly at the Chinese Bar Citizen. Again, take it with a grain of salt, that there are some differences between the Squadron version and the PU version. But much like the Idris, the Javelin is a ship we have seen in the Squadron 42 gameplay trailer as having a new exterior than the one you're seeing here. The exterior has been updated, new engines, new cladding, new everything. It is obviously a monster of a ship, 480 meters long. This ship is hard to imagine being in the hands of players right now. However, in the future, when we have space stations, I fully see a role for the Javelin. It'll be the ship you take to attack a space station.
I think you would agree with me. This is definitely behind dynamics over meshing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And
I looked up the ordnance because I was trying to look for the number of those torpedoes for you, but they only list them as size 9s on the wiki, so I'm starting to think the wiki might be a little bit out of date.
Yeah, might be a lot of date.
I do remember it having bigger torpedoes as well.
They I can confirm their size, like in the game files, they're listed as size 12s. I think there's even a name for them, but I forget.
The name they've got here is it's a weapons rack called Argos size 9 torpedo, but that's the size 9s, not the and then it's also lists size 4s that are called Raptors. So yeah, I don't know.
Gotcha. Megalodon, thank you for the follow. By the way, everyone, we have a PSA from a pack of 12 ninjas that says there's a ton of people on live right now complaining that they cannot move in the Apollo. If you're having this issue, turn off proximity assist, and that 100% fixes the issue. So kind of an interesting PSA, but there you go. I'm sure that
sounds
will be
like
addressed.
the medical people need medical help.
Yes. Yeah. The Javelin, the interesting thing there when we're talking about kits, by the way, is it's already got some modular component to it, whether that is the 5 rooms or the 2 rooms. Again, not knowing where their CIG is going with that. It will have, that will be a way for CIG to monetize the Javelin further. It still could get kits on top of that. We don't know. Like armament kits, we don't know.
Yeah. Well, think about how funky they could make. They could sell like a bar module,
sure.
You know, they can do whatever they want, right? But like realistically, if you look at the modules that we've got, they always seem to be about expanding what the ship already does.
Yes.
So instead of it being more of a jack of all trades, it kind of tailors it more towards one certain thing, or one part of it from what we've seen. But modular isn't always better. As I said, like it kind of goes bespoke variant module. And again, looking at the ones we looked at earlier today, like the refinery module, the cargo module on the Galaxy to the Ironclad, a third the size, but yet it's still going to cost you the same amount to move that ship around. So module isn't always better. You know, I think you're going to get these people that are going to like, well, I'd rather sit here and grind out so I'm making more money with my cargo ship than just carry around a lot less cargo but pay more to move it. So again, it's that player choice, and 100%. It makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
So everyone, we've gone through the ships of the backlog part 1. Now, if you're wondering where XYZ ship is that's still on the backlog, that's probably because it's going to be brought up in part 2. So and that will be on Sunday to give you all an idea. I think on my YouTube schedule, by the way, it's still tomorrow, but I'm going to push that to Sunday because my wife don't want me to stream tomorrow. So I might be able to.
You have to buy her I might be able to buy like a cat of 9 tails or something for your wife for Christmas.
I might be able to.
She won't get the reference.
I might be able to intrude on the Infra Runners, but we'll see. But anyways, on part 2, the ships will be going over in part 2 of the backlog will be ships like the Tumbrel Ranger vehicle, obviously, the MISC Expanse, the Vulcan, the Spirit E1, the Genesis Starliner, the Crucible, the Liberator, the Arastra, the Nautilus, another one of my favorites, the Merchantman, the Endeavor, the Hull D, the Orion, and the Hull E, which, to the best of my knowledge, completes the current ship backlog. Now, the reason I put some of those ships in part 2 is a lot of those ships, in my opinion, are farther off than the ones we went through tonight. And farther off means a lot more question marks, means a lot more uncertainty, and it's all been confirmed that some of those ships are even post Star Citizen 1.0. So we're talking years away, you know. So take that for what it is. I think that episode will be a lot more speculative than tonight's episode. But why do we do this? Because it's sometimes nice to look back on what CIG is still needing to put out. Remind ourselves that it's still there. And here's something to take away. I saw this in a chat the other day. I can't remember exactly where I saw this, but you know, I think it was in one of the Spectrum things where they were asking for questions for the ship team. And of course, there was a person says, why aren't you ticking away on the backlog? They actually have been ticking away on the backlog pretty aggressively lately. I think CIG's been making a pretty good and concerted effort to tackle the backlog and still deliver new ships like the Wolf and Meteor and stuff like that. Would you agree with that, Execute? I mean, I feel like they've been trying to tick some old ships off. I mean, look at what's in production now. Pioneer, Perseus, Polaris got finished. I mean, there's a lot of ships, you know.
To his credit, too, Jared put it in an interesting way when he said, when you're asking for X ship, you're really asking where is gameplay, whatever. And I agree with him. That is fundamentally what people are asking. So you're going to know when your ship is possibly being worked on when they're working on the gameplay. And let's be honest, most of the gameplays come in a smaller ship variety before you get the bigger one these days. I think you'd probably agree that they tend to advertise the bigger ships more because they kind of want to sell them, and they're, you know, but then they'll just instantly drop like a build and not kind of tell you, well, they intended to drop the build but didn't. But you get my point.
Absolutely.
You get my point, right?
Yeah.
Something bigger like a Kraken or a Pioneer or an Orion, I'm sure we'll hear about the Orion, maybe even the Erastor when they start working on that. But like something that's smaller, like the Flappy Bird, I still think that that's probably our first mining extractor vehicle.
Yeah, you could be right.
You know,
could be right.
Yeah, we have to kind of wait and see, right? Like again, you and I love trying to speculate on this stuff and working stuff out, but it makes logical sense with the Pioneer doing it to split that out. I'm just trying to use that as an example, by the way.
One last question here that I did want to cover. I wasn't going to take any more questions, but this one just popped up. Thank you, Art, for pushing it to the chat. Question from CB, and I didn't know this, so this is news to me. He says, not sure if you mentioned it, but the concierge packages have been updated in the store, and it looks like concepts have mostly been dropped from the packs. I didn't know that was a thing, so that's interesting. I think CIG is just trying to get away from it. Here's one thing I would say. Me and Execute have talked a little bit about this. While I understand and am mostly happy that they're not doing the concept thing anymore, there is part of me that will miss concepts, because I do think concepts, now I don't want concepts to sit for 8 years, but concepts that come in and sit by, a year or two, I don't mind those, because I felt like it gave the community a little bit of time to voice their opinions. Maybe CIG takes some of that guidance, maybe not. But, I don't know. I feel like we're losing that a little bit.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to use an example, and I know there's some people that like this ship. I know there's some people that agree with me, but the Starlancer, right? That went straight out. It never got any feedback, and I think all the issues on it are fixable. But it never would have got this far if it just came straight out. Like, if we'd seen it in concept, we would have said, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Like we would have, we would have pointed those things out that are really, really obvious. And essentially, you could have made that ship smaller in certain places, but then it was made bigger in others that just don't make sense. But so the point I'm getting at is feedback is as good for them as it is for us to give, right? So we both kind of end out with better ships. So doing this in the dark, that's my fear. Are they going to come out with something that we just is so inherent? I don't think they will. I think they've grown a lot, right? But I don't like worst case scenarios. They come up with so inherently bad that they have to redo the entire thing. I don't think that'll happen. I think the worst case you'll probably get is something like the Starlancer where it needs major fixes. But my point still stands is I think you would agree with me if they'd done that a little bit more in the open, they would have got feedback, and it would be a better ship now that didn't need to be fixed later. But I'll leave it there.
I think it's still just one of those things I'm a little split on. There's part of me sometimes that even with the most recent ship, the Apollo, there's still part of me sometimes it's just like, I wonder if we had seen sort of the reconcepting of that and sort of what they were going to do with that layout, and maybe there was a little bit more of a dialogue from CIG during some of the development of some of these ships, especially during that pre-production white box phase. If there was a little bit more of an open dialogue, that'd be nice. But at the same time, you're never going to please everybody, and you gotta keep moving forward and not get bogged down. So I really do see both sides of it. So
I know CIG won't get anything out of this, but I'd love to have just John and Ben as an example talk about how that ship was built, like almost like a behind the scenes, like what they do in the jump point, but just from Ben and John, and they go through and go right. So this ship grew by essentially 20 meters, but it actually lost features. So there's no waiting room anymore. The toilets are actually really, really big, but there's no shower in them. So the ship grew, but it didn't grow in features. So why didn't it just stay the size it was? Like all the rooms become straight instead of diagonal. There was changes made to it that maybe it was a scaling issue. I just kind of would like to know a bit of, like, it'd be a nice to know, but obviously it's airing the dirty laundry and they probably don't want to do that, but it would show a little bit of that transparent development that they talk about a lot, but we don't see so much anymore. And I think that's what I'm talking about. But by doing this, we're losing that transparency. They're going to be operating in the dark, and we're not going to give feedback. Maybe they're just sick of it. Maybe they think they've got enough feedback now that they know what they're doing.
I agree. So, with all that, I'm excited for CitizenCon. We'll see what happens and what ship news we get. I'm excited for October, obviously.
Yep.
You know, with the Apollo just releasing in 4.3.1, that's another big ship. I say big ship. It's another pretty large ship now off the backlog. You know, they've ticked off another one. So that being said, thank you all for hanging out tonight. Execute, thank you for being here. Everyone, do not forget to check that Gleam link that Artorias has been posting dutifully all night and get in on that Apollo triage giveaway courtesy of CIG. That'll be on Sunday that I give that away.
You should get Nightbot. That's what we do, get to do our links. You can just get Nightbot and it'll set it a timer and it'll just spawn it.
Yeah, you know what? I have Nightbot. I actually have Stream Elements too. I just didn't enter that in there. But yeah, we'll have to do that next time. Art, everyone. Yeah, go ahead.
Give Art access so he can do that for you.
Yeah. Art, everyone give Artorias a salute. Thank you for rocking the mod stuff tonight, Art.
Give me a salute in chat if he passed the test. Give me a big fat X if he failed. And we'll kick his ass off.
There you go.
So, yeah. No, I think he did really well. Just give me shit, Art. Sorry.
All right, everybody. I'm going to send you over to someone we rated the other day, but we're going to give him some more love. We're going to send you over to Granny Q. Give her some STARJUMP love and all that good stuff. Treat each other kindly. Have a great weekend. You'll see me again on Sunday where we go through part 2 of the ship backlog. Everyone, have a great night. Salute to you.